Welcome back, gentlemen, and good afternoon. Goodness, I was wrong to think that I could do live streams, normal content, and all my chores coming into winter. So this is what you get, an hour with me stacking wood. That's what I've been doing today. So if we're going to be doing these live streams, we're going to have to do it on the fly, and I'll have to bring you where I'm at, because sitting down and it's just hard to find the time. Anyway, so we're doing firewood today, bringing in the last of it before the next big storm comes in. I've got my phone right here. We're just going to start chopping. And if you want to, if you have a question or comment on something, want to do a super chat, I will come up here, sit down, and give you my full attention. But in the meantime, I'm going to be working on this firewood and getting it stacked in before the next storm comes. Boy, it has been cold. Cold, cold, cold. Dry it, and I've been working outside, getting all the fuel organized and sorted out. The last of the firewood stacked up and covered. You know, every time I get that snow, it always kind of spooks me or stirs me into, into progress, getting things done. There's been people that have said that the only people that really produce things of value are from cold climates. I don't know that it's necessarily about the people in particular, in that just that living in a cold climate makes you be very, just kind of makes you a diligent worker, because you have to be to survive. So last time I didn't stack these up, or I didn't split these small enough before I stacked them, and then I was forever splitting. So I thought, well, let's just do it now, do it right, do it once, and then we can rest in our ease the rest of the winter. Okay, I'm assuming I've got audio. You know, we're a one-man band here, so you never know what's going up. How's the audio, gentlemen? Is it coming through loud and clear? No problems? All right. Well, if I don't hear, give me ones if everything looks good. How you doing, Mama? It's funny, this cat, they're so intuitive. Sometimes you just think animals are simple and dumb, but they know things, like how she gets herself ready for winter. She started eating, doubled her eating. Her coat gets thicker. Just, this is incredible, isn't it? Incredible mystery. Audio good, everything good? Okay, we're gonna get back to work. So if you have a super chat, drop that in there. That's the only thing that's gonna stop my working, because we're gonna continue to get this done today before the sun goes down, hopefully. We got to get up on the mountain. The snow, the sun came out, and it is absolutely beautiful. It must have snowed up there multiple feet. I have no idea how many. I should probably, maybe I'll work out a little kindling while we're going here too. Get that big one. Oh, this is good firewood this year. Well, we get Doug Fur's good firewood every year. Ooh, that one's going to take a little more horsepower. I was worried about those antlers. I'm fine, I guess. That is one bad maul right there. Mama, we've got super chats. Better take a seat. We have a super chat from Kyle B. Kyle B, shout out to you. He asked, can you share how you met Mrs. W Star? I can share that with you. So I had been living in Colorado. I'm going to turn the screen around here so I can make sure I'm in frame. I had just left Colorado. I was working as a career firefighter doing structural firefighting and wildland firefighting. And I got really fed up with I worked for that was a bad department, and I just quit. I wasn't planning on quitting. I just had enough and reached my tipping point, and I got pushed too far and I quit. So I'd been away from home for a while, from Portland. I came back and got an apartment in Portland and made contact with some old friends that I had met, that I knew years before. Say, hey, I'm back in town. I was trying to kind of plug back into some friends and network, because most of the guys that I knew most of them were gone. And they said, yeah, but he's like, yeah, we're heading over to this girl's house that she's celebrating something, and she just graduated, and I'm sure it would be fine if you came over, right? So I thought, okay, I went over. That wasn't too far. I was like up in the Hollywood district in Portland, and she was over in Hawthorne. She had a house over there, and I just graduated graduate school and was working for a company downtown Portland. So the barbecue was at her house. So I grabbed a case of beer and headed over there. And she always remembers that I was, it doesn't matter what she remembers, I'll just tell you what happened. Anyway, I walked in to this lawn party, or this barbecue, kind of a summer party, and there were a bunch of people. I didn't know anyone except for a couple of my friends, and I went over and talked to them a little bit, and they introduced me to everyone. And they introduced me to Mrs. W, and I took an instant dislike to her. She had, I thought she had this really fancy education, and it was being celebrated for all of this. And I never even went to college, so I probably had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, but nonetheless, I did not take to her at all. But her mother was delightful. Her mother is from Sweden, as you know, and I met her there and talked with her, and she was just delightful. I'm always interested to meet people from other countries, and so that was kind of my first introduction. I didn't really think too much about it. Well, not too long, a week or so after that, we got together for another get-together. It must have been Halloween then, around the fall. They were doing a pumpkin party or pumpkin carving. I was hosting a pumpkin party. That's what it was, a pumpkin carving party. I was hosting it at my flat or apartment. And I had this really cool place in the Hollywood, and it was kind of street level and lots of glass, and it was a good place to entertain. And so I had invited, this is what had happened. I had contacted one of my friends that worked for a big design firm, Wyden and Kennedy downtown, had a lot of contacts and knew a lot of girls. And I was looking to meet some girls, right? So I called her and I said, I want you to invite, like your half a dozen of your best looking friends to this party, and then I'll be able to, take my pick of which one I like, and I'm looking for a girlfriend, right? So that's how if you want to succeed in life, you have to have these connections and exploit them, right? So that's the way I was operating at the time. Well, Mrs. W happened to be in this friend group, not one of these hot girls invited, but in this friend group, and she got the time wrong and showed up an hour early, and she showed up with a rotisserie chicken, which I thought was really unusual. So she's knocking on my door, and here's that woman that that I took such a dislike to at the party an hour early, and I'm in my kitchen getting prepared. Well, that gave us an hour to get acquainted. She brought her chicken in or whatever it was, and I got to know her, and realized what a great personality she had. So when these other girls showed up, I wasn't all that interested. I was pretty much interested in Mrs. W at the time. So that's kind of how it went. We all have those stories, don't we? All right, we have a super chat from, you guys got to let me get back to work here. Super chat from 30 Day Reviews, who writes, do you find someone to edit your live streams? Not yet. That is on my plate this weekend. Mrs. W abandoned me to go. She had some things she had to do, some friends she had to meet up, and I'm home with the kiddos. So I have been nose to the grindstone trying to keep this whole thing from unraveling. Without her is tough. So I'm going to look at that this weekend. But as soon as she gets back, we're going to sit down and take a look at that. But thank you, 30 Days Review. I've got them all saved in a file, and I will get to them. And we have a super chat from Lance Corporal Veteran, who writes, origin of the inspiration for bare feet on camera. Well, you know, when your body tells you sometimes what you need. It tells you when you're thirsty. It tells you when you're lacking or deficient in something, you have a craving for food and such. It started for me, and I can't explain it. I don't know if I can give you an explanation, but it really started for me with fabrics, like clothing. I started to grow really uncomfortable and didn't like the feeling of synthetic fabrics on me. So I cleaned all of that out, which was a lot of stuff for me because I wore a lot of, you know, technical type of ski clothing and such, which are all synthetic. So now I only wear organic cotton, wool, or linens. I don't know why. It just was making me crazy. So and now I feel a lot better in it. And then I just really felt like I wanted to be barefoot. I feel like I want to be. I feel better grounded. I don't know, for some reason. Also, there are several reasons. I was having problems with my feet. I had to go to this foot guy and get orthotics and put these in my shoes, and that was a hassle. I got to looking into it, and I thought, that seems weird. You know, if an arch is failing, you know, coming from a carpenter's background, if an arch is failing, which is there's an arch in a foot, what do you do to repair it? Well, what you don't do, if you talk to masons as such, is you don't you know, prop up the middle or put a post or stick there. The reason for the arch is to carry the weight, and it's supported on the outsides. So I began to wonder, is it the shoes that I'm wearing all the time and the way my feet are now starting to become deformed because of the years of wearing cowboy boots? My toes are all pinched in, versus if you look at someone who's like our indigenous folk, right? Their feet are wide and splayed out. And then I also felt, was having difficulty getting my athleticism back after breaking my leg. And that combined with the arch, I don't know, my body just felt like I wanted to be barefoot, that I needed to strengthen those muscles. And so that's what I've done. So I try to work as long as I can. I work barefoot all the time I can, but now that it's cold, I'm in shoes a lot more. But in summertime, pretty much most of the time, I'm in the barefoot. But thank you for that super chat, Lance Corporal Veteran. We have a super chat from Nick Felsteed. Is it Felsteed? Felsteed. Shout out to you. Been loving the YouTube shorts, Cody. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. Thank you, Nick. I do appreciate that. All right, we're back to the grindstone, Mama. Back to the grindstone. I'm so trained, but looking overhead, I guess from all of that Forest Service training with the saw, you know, always looking up all the time. Like, okay, you only need to look up once. Nothing has been added since the last time you looked up there. Just don't stand over here by the antlers and swing it, and you'll be fine. Okay, you can stop the looking up. I might need the right tool for the right job here, huh? I've been loving my Hoffman axe. It sure is a good fire. It's a good wood stove axe. It's just about perfect. These two are I guess these are kind of my two favorite right by the wood stove tools. There's the big maul, the splitter. Even though I don't often need something so massive, you can just kind of let the tool do the work. It's got so much mass in it. You can pick it up, and just by letting it fall, as long as you aim it properly, it does the job. Oh, okay. Oh goodness. Good thing I've got cat-like reflexes. Have we got a super chat, Mama? Oh, that was from Nick. Shout out to you, Nick. You deserve 2 shout outs, don't you? Boy, she has been lazy. She is lazy getting ready for winter. I got some new Ironheart gear. I was debating whether or not you guys would be interested if we could do I've become such a fanboy that I'm totally into it. You know, you can't judge a man by his hobbies. You just got to let him go with it. So leave me alone. I told Mrs. W the other day, I said, my goal is to have everything I wear, everything in my closet is all Iron Horse, because I can buy it once and I'll be done. I'll never have to think about clothing again. Oh, ouch, goodness. That's the biggest sliver I ever got in my foot. Look at the size of that guy. How did that happen? I'll bet that went in there a 3/16 of an inch. Goodness. Oh, make your eyes sweat. My feet are getting tough, though, I'll tell you that. I was super tender-footed. I couldn't walk out in the gravel or asphalt. Now I can really cruise. Got like a rind on my feet now. Ow, man, that one really stuck me. That's like a 1 in a million that could have been poking up like that. Well, I'm glad I got that out of the way. Well, this one's going to put up a fight, is it? We'll see about that. It's got a big knot in it. I think this is one of my favorite things to do. It wasn't my favorite thing to do when I had to do it as a boy, though. It's funny how when it's for someone else, what a misery it is. But if it's for yourself, what a joy it can be. Same job. That's a mean one right there. No match for the big German brute. Ow. Ooh, that was a good one too. There is a dark side to my beloved Doug fir, and it is the most sliver-given wood in the whole world. Oh man, my toes getting sore. Mama, I got jabbed. We have a super chat from Jason Barr. Shout out to you, Jason. And Jason writes, missed you last couple of days, brother. Thanks for doing these live streams. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I couldn't get to him. Couldn't get to him. With Mrs. W being gone, it has, it's you know the old saying that, what is it, time apart makes the heart grow fonder or something like that? That's very true. But also it makes you realize what how much your helpmeet does for you. But thank you, Mr. Barr, for that. I sure appreciate it. Oh, what is going on here? Be lucky to crawl out of here when I'm done. It does make you focus on your precision, though. Well, you got a dog in the fight, or you got two dogs in the fight, and you're very careful. Well, that's some clear grain right there. That's what we want for kindling. Where's our... I got this spiffy Ironheart shirt. This is my winter shirt Mrs. W bought for me, I was telling you guys about. This one is really nice. It's what's kind of cool about once you figure out your size, then you can just order any of the shirts because they're all cut from the same pattern. So they'll do different runs and different materials and fabrics. But I wanted something that was warm and comfortable to wear. So this is a really lightweight dentum. I think it's an 8 or 9 ounce. So it's really light, it's black. And then it has all natural wool inside of it. So it's super, super warm, but it's not too thick. Some of my shirts are really thick and heavy, but this one feels really soft. And man, is it warm. It's got the on the inside, it's just got the quilted deals. But these are, I'm about 6'4", and right now about 190, 92 pounds, and I wear a double XL. So their stuff runs very small. So really, if you order one, really pay attention to the sizing. They'll explain it on the website. You'll want to get a ribbon tape, measure yourself, and just follow the instructions and you'll be fine. Some nice pieces there, Mama. We have a super chat from our friend Jason Barr. Shout out to you again, Jason. Jason writes, have you ever ran an LWRC rifle? I picked one up and have loved it. First gas AR. I actually I held my very first LWRC rifle 2 days ago. I had not. I mean, I know the reputation of them, that they're really top of the line, best of the best type of stuff. I mean, right up there with Knights and Daniel Defense and such. That's a beautiful rifle. Yeah, the one that I saw was absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. I was very tempted to make my neighbor who brought it over an offer on it. It was, and he, just to speak to that, he works for a gun store and really knows the product, really knows what's out there and is pretty discerning. And that's what he personally had. So I think it speaks volumes right there. But very nice. Thank you, Jason, for that. But good choice. I would, my top ones would be Knights Armament, LWRC, Daniel Defense, and really those three, I guess. LaRue or Lewis LMT, Lewis Machine and Tool. That'd be up there as well. We have a super chat from Brave Sig 8. Shout out to you, who asks, what has been your current diet? Well, I worked out a deal with Mrs. W. I got tired of asking, what would you like? What would you like to eat? You want a sandwich? And this and that. And I finally just said, you know what? I just don't ask me, just bring something. Whatever you bring me, I'll just be happy to eat it. So Mrs. W is in complete control of my diet, and I don't complain about it because I don't want to go make it myself. But I never have. If there's something she makes that I don't particularly like, I'll just say, well, that's not a do-over. And she makes a note of it and saves the one that I like and just kind of rotates them through. So I guess I eat a lot healthier than I used to. I try not to eat too much junk food. We'll make exceptions when we're on the road or special, if you're going to go to a birthday party or something like that. I'm not going to make myself a social pariah or anything. I'm going to eat what's put in front of me. But for the most part, just trying to cut back on anything that's processed food, chips, anything in vegetable oils, just processed foods. Just try to eat as clean as possible. Try to get as much locally here as possible. So all of our beef now, we just bought a cow, put that in the freezer, is local from an organic ranch. A lot of our dairy and stuff we get locally here. So we just, our water, don't drink anything that has been who knows what, it comes right down from the mountain. So just trying to have some common sense about it and not to give in to everything that I absolutely love and desire and have some moderation. And I'm in good shape now. So, some of the best shape I've ever been in. I don't know, my body fat percentage is probably single digit. I mean, I'm the size I was when I was in high school. And I've just gotten that way. One thing that really helped me lose weight was stop drinking alcohol. And what I noticed with alcohol was, I don't know that was quite so fattening, but I made bad decisions after drinking the alcohol. You come down after work and sit down on the couch and pour yourself a couple nice scotches, and pretty soon you're in the pantry looking for cookies or something like that. So that was always a problem. So that helped. Maybe just a lot of different things and just eating cleaner and simpler, not snacking and just drinking water. Not drinking power drinks or sodas or juices. Just drinking water for the most part. But I don't know what to tell you other than that. It's just worked for me. But I think stopping drinking for me was the big one. That thing that got the whole ball started. And in riding the motorcycle, I rode a lot, and that developed real good core strength, and it's very physical. So that really helped. So I'm kind of in between right now. I feel like I'm like, I was in such good shape right at that race. I'd like to maintain that. I might have to, but we're going to be getting up on the snow bike soon, so that we'll just roll right into that. So that could start any day now. But thank you for that super chat, Brave Sig 8. We have a super chat from Sean McCarthy. Shout out to you, Sean. And Sean writes, "Hey, Cody, love the live streams. I was wondering, in what way do you see Mrs. W as your equal?" She far exceeds my abilities in many ways, and I far exceed her abilities in other ways. But as a whole, like who as a whole, who would be the more capable person on their own? I would say it'd be pretty equal. I think that's why our marriage has been good and has not been a struggle. Has been difficult, and we rarely have disagreements, is because we are equally yoked in that way. Not one of us feels that the other is not pulling their weight, and there never is any resentment. I could see that if I was out working 10, 12 hours a day doing hard work, driving truck or construction or warehouse, come home tired, and my helpmate was sitting on her fat arse, not doing anything, and hadn't provided a meal and didn't have a clean house and hadn't had herself, looking presentable and ready for her man to come home, I would be resentful towards that. I would feel that was very, I would feel that would be a betrayal of my wedding vows. I would go so far as to say that. So she's never done that, and I've never done that. So I can't say, I can say, well, I'm the better person to be hard charging and taking risks and going out and starting a homestead or deciding to buy property, logging, I'm that risk taker, but I also sometimes leap too soon, and she's more conservative on that, and she has a lot more strength with that back end, if you want to do this, we got to make sure we have these things in place. We can't just do this, it would be irresponsible. So, but she's always supported me in that. So I don't see her as my superior. I don't see her as my inferior. I see her as my helpmeet, as the other part that made me whole. You know, when the good book tells us when a man and woman come together that they become one flesh. And that's a powerful thing if you think about it, because it makes you wonder in the judgment, if man and woman, when they come together in holy union and become one flesh in the eyes of God, will they be judged as one flesh? Will, if the woman is a believer and the husband is not a believer, is the husband sanctified by her belief? And will he be in the kingdom because of the one fleshness of it all, or vice versa? You know, it's an incredible mystery, you know. Wouldn't that be something if all of a sudden in the kingdom, after the second coming, the unbelievers that were attached to the saints wake up in the kingdom? They're going to have a lot to learn, but I'm sure they'll be welcome. Right? So I don't know if that's the case. I don't have a scripture for that. I'm just talking here. But thank you for that super chat. Oh goodness, I'm getting backed up here. Sean, thank you, Sean. Shout out to you. We have a super chat from Jacob Ashdown. Shout out to you, Jacob. And Jacob writes, Cody, I've just bought 5 acres at 23 years old. Jacob is slaying. You're killing it. Man, I was thinking today, I was just thinking today on this about how many years I spent in life with my sole motivation was achieving the validation of women, and how much of my resources and time and just thought and the decisions that I made about that. You know, it's so sad. And then you see that right there, and then here he's got at 23, he's getting started. And at 23, you know, I was, you know, getting deep into the bar scene and you know, wasted a decade of my life. Yeah, it's depressing, isn't it? But the great thing is it's never too late. You can always do something, even at 60, 70. And if you want to get on the path, you want to set your feet on the path of righteousness, there will be something expected of you, but you'll do what you can, and God will supply the rest. So that's the wonderful thing. Good job. I'm very proud of you for that. That is amazing. 23 years old, 5 acres. And bought land. If you buy land, oftentimes that can't be financed. So I don't know, but he may have paid cash for that. You know, could you have done that at 23? I couldn't have. We have a super chat from Andrew Collins. Andrew Collins writes, Cody, resting up an injury at home, wondering if you could mention some of your favorite movies. Thanks. Oh, favorite movies. I haven't watched movies for so long. Some of my favorite movies are Christmas Vacation. You can't go wrong with that. That always comes to mind. Man, it's always rough to be put on the spot like that, and nothing's going to come to my mind right now. I guess if I were to go back and watch, I actually the other Sunday I was having a lazy Sunday, and I went back and I watched a movie from my childhood. It was called Silent Running. It was the first sci-fi movie I ever remember watching. Do you guys remember that movie? I couldn't even remember the name of it, but I was sitting by the fire and the kids, you know, babies sleeping there, and I thought, yeah, this is so nice. It just reminded me of the coziness and happy times of childhood. And I remember that movie being on and just being a little kid and just being enraptured by it. And the story is, it's sci-fi. And just go watch it. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But I watched it. I went on YouTube and rented it, and I watched it, and it was awesome. So Silent Running is a good movie. I would, if you haven't, one of my favorite series of all times, of course, would have been Star Trek Next Generation. Star Trek TNG series. I would probably skip the first season. The first season is trash. Just go in and start at the second season. That is actually a pretty good show. It was quite intelligent, and man, as a child, I just lived for it. And to be able to watch it now in on demand is pretty cool, because back then we had to wait. and it would be in the fall, and you'd watch it, and then you'd have to wait for the whole season, and then one episode a week, and then all the commercial breaks in it, you know, so I would watch that. And then another thing, if you wanted just to be entertained, some really good YouTube stuff, when I was convalescing from my broken leg, I got on to watching the guys over at Red Letter Media doing reviews of movies and different things. Those guys are super, super funny. And if you haven't followed that or went over to their YouTube channel, very, very clever. I enjoyed their stuff. I watched a lot of those guys. I probably watched most of their whole catalog. And another series that was kind of fun, that only made it one season. I'm going to give you some obscure things here. Made it one season and was not picked up or renewed, but is kind of a cult favorite, and I enjoyed it. Our whole family really enjoyed it. Is Firefly. Go look up Firefly, and that's kind of fun as well. If you're just looking for some things that are a little bit different and not just the normal stuff. Good luck in your recovery. I know how that feels. We have a super chat from Andrew Collins. Shout out to you, Andrew. And Andrew writes, Cody, resting up. Oh, sorry. You got a double shout out. You deserve it. We have a super chat from our friends Outdoor with the Morgans and fellow YouTubers. Thank you for that and your generosity. Email me a good address. I want to send you something that will change your life in a good way. Okay, I will do that. Thank you for the Morgans there. Send me an email, Cody@Wranglerstar.com. And I'll get on that tonight. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate that. We have a super chat from Warren Fogelman, triple Loctite member. Warren, shout out to you, who writes, I was wondering your opinion on the midterm elections, and what do you think the future of the country is? You know, this was the first election I didn't vote on. I don't see any distinction between the two parties. I know that might sound like heresy to you, but I just don't. On maybe some issues, but on the big issues, they're all in lockstep. So I just don't see it of any value. So I choose not to participate. What's going to happen? I don't know. I don't particularly care because I don't have any say in it. There's nothing I can do about it. So my focus is on my local community and what I can do here in my house and my family and my kids and my extended family through my YouTube channel. You know, that's why we're doing the videos, that we're learning together, and we're hopefully a small lighthouse for you guys that are out there to see that not everything is lost and there is hope. And that hope is not to point people to me, but that I can point you to the Almighty. Because in these times, God is collecting His remnant, His people. And there's people that are waking up and they're hearing that call. And how you respond to that will determine how your destiny unfolds. So that's what we're doing here. And we're not apologizing for it either. So Mrs. W came to me and has also taken some very courageous, bold stands on some things where she has particular influence that has put her at personal risk as well. And she came to me the other night and said, I'm done making compromises. I'm done making apologizing. I'm going to speak up and be very clear on what I stand for, and I'm no longer going to be pushed around. And if that means that is an end to losing a position here, or if that even means that that's the end to our YouTube channel, then so be it. You know, whether I serve man or God, you know, whether I should serve man or YouTube, you be the judge. You know, we do what we have to do to keep the lights on, but we don't want to compromise our core values and our core beliefs. And we don't want to, if we have a message that we think is important, then we have an obligation to share it with those who are ready to hear, right? I'd want to hear it. I heard it. But thank you for that super chat. We have a super chat from the Amish Potato. That's a pretty good name. Next to Overton Window, that's pretty good. For $10, thank you for that. And a super chat from Jordan L. Shout out to you, Jordan. And Jordan writes, I've been watching for a while. It's been a pleasure to go from the word debt-free to the amazing homestead you've built today. Thanks for all the great videos. Yeah, well, the amazing homestead has become too much work for one person, and now I have to hire people to care for all this stuff. So the amazing homestead is about to get downsized. So back to something that's more reasonable and realistic. But, you know, we learn by doing, don't we? Nobody could ever tell me anything. I have to go out and get my nose bloodied, and then I'll figure it out. I learned my lesson slow, as I like to say. We have a super chat from Jordan S. Shout out to you, Jordan. And Jordan says, have you thought about side rail for hyperlapse? Slider rail for hyperlapse? I don't even know what that is. Am I supposed to know what that is? What is that? What is a slide rail for hyperlapse? I don't know. That sounds cool. Gamer Dave, we have a super chat for $20. Thank you for that. Shout out to you, Gamer Dave. He writes, did you get my email? Feeling so lost today after watching a video. It basically said, if you find God, then look back on an old life if you are not worthy of the kingdom. I felt depressed after and gave up as a failure. I haven't. I'm behind on my Mrs. W. I get so many emails that come in. Mrs. W. collates those for me and pushes the stuff, important stuff to me, and she's away and not doing that right now. So we're gonna have a backlog on that. But I will once I get done with my firewood, I'll try to work on that tonight. Goodness, I am pedaling as fast as I can here. It's been a busy week, but thank you for that, Gamer Dave. I'll go through there and look for that. And we have a super chat from Nick Villalona. Shout out to you, Nick. All right, Mom, are you gonna bite me? Hey, one time I reached down to pet her when she was sleeping and she bit me. So I'll just let sleeping cats lie there. Oh, Nick, I was just getting back to work here. Nick's gonna drag me back to the chair. Nick Villalona, shout out to you again, who writes, can recommend a good mount for an electron microscope for my 250. Oh, I got you, photography stuff. Okay, slider rail. Okay, so can you recommend a good mount for an electron microscope for my F250? Oh man, the one I have is overly complicated. I would not recommend it. I don't know what's out there. That has changed so much. When I went down to VidCon, Mrs. W and I a couple years ago, and there was a company that had one. I'm sorry, I can't help you any more than this, but this is what I would get. That was really compact, and it used a band system. And what he's talking about is there's a motorized sliders for cameras. When you're a one-man show like me, and you're trying to get nice effects and pick up the quality of your content, some people use a slider, and it just moves the camera on a little electric motor on a little track, and it's a nice effect. If you have a cameraman, you can do that on dollies and such, but by yourself, that's how I do it. But that's what he's looking for. But there's some compact ones that are really small and then pull out and extend. And you don't really need, to be honest with you, I think any more than about maybe 32 inches. You could probably even get away with maybe 28 or 24 in a pinch. But look into that for those. It's controlled by bands. These rubber. It was really cool. If I hadn't already had one, I would have bought that one. Yeah, those are cool. That stuff is fun, but you have to be careful with it. Sometimes you think that to get to the next level or to get my content up to where I want it, I need another gadget, and I get that, man. I'm the biggest sinner when it comes to that. But what I have learned is that a lot of that stuff gets in the way of you telling a story or trying to share what you want to share because of the complexity of it all. And it can certainly, is that loose? It can certainly take away your joy. It feels, I might need to tighten that. Well, maybe it's just in my head. It can take away the joy in that there's so much to do now for you to make content that you just don't do it. It's like, oh, what's the point? Sometimes you miss the days where you just grab the old, what's the camera we used to use? That little cheapo, that little spot camera, whatever it was, with no microphones and all that. But the reality is if you want to be on YouTube and you want to run a successful channel, you have to have good quality audio and video, and other people do. So the learning curve is sharp, is hard. But what I'd give you, I'd just tell you, buy quality, buy the pro gear. Don't buy the cheap stuff. Stick with the name brands. Buy your mics from Sennheiser and buy your camera equipment from Canon. And never buy aftermarket batteries. And get a good light with a China ball if you're going to be filming inside. That's what I'd recommend. Oh, sorry about that, Gamer Dave. I'll go looking for that email. I'll spend some time on that tonight and in the morning. We have a super chat from the Amish, another super chat from the Amish Potato. Mama, hey, you gonna bite me? Don't bite me. Looks like you're gonna eat this winter. The Amish Potato just fed you for the month. Oh goodness, do we have a super chat here? Nope, we're still good. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Boy, sometimes I wonder who's working for who. You seem like you're doing all right around here. The cat's winning. See how much of my labors go into keeping that fire going? Oh goodness, Mama, we got a super chat. Gonna train you to give me an alarm. We have a super chat from L Executioner 82, who writes, "I love your chopping block." Well, thank you. I'm hoping it's going to survive. It's getting some big cracks in it, being next to the stove. I've been wondering if maybe I should run a band around it, or even just forge a big old bolt and just put a big, like a 3/4 inch bolt through there with some big square washers on there and just draw it all tight. Maybe I should do that. That's a good idea, actually. We could fire up the forge and punch those out, make those washers. But I don't know how to cut threads. I'd have to use a piece of threaded rod. That's cutting threads on a forge, that's outside the capabilities of a professional homeowner, to be sure. But thank you for that. Shout out to you. Oh. Oh, that's a mean one. we're going to have to put some effort into that one. We have a super chat from our friend, the Amish Potato. See, he knew I needed a rest before I tackled that mean one there. Our friend, the Amish Potato, writes, I have always loved when you give advice for men. I feel it is much needed since we have lost healthy masculinity in the world today. Have you considered doing more of this content? Yeah, I agree. I think it's important as well. But then I think, goodness, what the world does not need is some other person giving advice, you know. I always preferred to learn by example. I had a lot of people in my life giving me advice that was not worth the time. I don't want advice. I want to hear what you think. You know, show me what you know, what you can do. So the people, I guess the biggest lessons that I've got in life are not from what people have said, but just witnessing what they've done in their life. And, you know, the Bible tells us that. The good book says, you'll know people by their fruit. You'll know them by their fruit. So if you see someone that has a particular lifestyle and you know, you continue to see the same problems, and they're struggling financially, and they're struggling to pay whatever it is because of bad decisions, you know, you don't want financial advice from this person. Go talk to someone that's actually doing it and that it works, right? So that's the way I like to learn. And that's the only way, really, to learn, because the proof is in the eating of the pudding. I mean, everyone is lying these days. Everyone is lying to you. Everything you hear, there's an agenda. Everyone is lying. So just to be able to come to one small place on the corner of the internet where someone is not lying to you, for me is refreshing. That's the channels that I like. I've watched some obscure stuff because finally, you know, I could turn off all the noise and all the propaganda and all of the deceit and just be in existence of something real. Stacking firewood is real. Thank you for that, Mr. Potato. We have a super chat from Revolver. Shout out to you, Revolver. Revolver writes, the two best things this channel has opened my eyes to is the love of Christ and the Spyderco Para 3. You had to go ahead and say that, knowing that I no longer own one. I've been enjoying the channel for years, Cody. That is a beautiful knife, isn't it? It's in my top 2 favorites. You know, I said I wasn't going to buy. No, I can't do it. I've got my knife in my shopping cart that I just refuse to pull the trigger on. That's might be even cooler than that one. And it is a Spyderco as well. I'm not going to say it because you guys will go buy them and I won't be able to get one anymore. I'm going to have to think about that one. We have a super chat from our longtime friend of the channel, Overton Windex, who writes, Cody, the world is very short on good advice. Fire away. Yeah, isn't that the truth? It's like, you ever walked into a Christian bookstore? It's like, oh, that's what we need. That's what we need is we need some more wisdom of men and women contradicting the wisdom of the fathers and the wisdom of Christ that we have in our very hands, but we refuse to read. We need more of that old-time wisdom, gentlemen. We need more of that old-time justice. We do need justice. But justice is coming. God tells us not to take revenge on our enemies, as difficult as that is, and that just cry out to Him all your afflictions. The person that afflicts you, the neighbor that afflicts you, the boss, the government, the country, whatever, whoever it is, you cry out to God and He will repay. And you'll have your justice someday, but for now we just have to sit patiently. And the best thing that we can do, gentlemen, I think, is just as little as possible. Just don't participate in things that are corrupt or that go against what you know to be right. Just don't participate in them. And the more of us men that figure that out and start that, the better. And that includes marrying these Western women. Oh. It's a struggle, man. The Christian walk is a struggle. Even though you know you're on the winning side, it's just it's a constant wind, the constant it's always a constant drain upon you. You always have to be on your guard. You always have to have the armor of God on. And the moment you think you've arrived or you've reached some spiritual degree or level, or that you can let your guard down, but you can't, that's when you're in the most danger. That's the amazing story, incredible story of John Bunyan, The Pilgrim's Progress. If you haven't read that, gentlemen, that's on the mandatory reading list for the professional professional homeowners. Is that book incredible? The book was one of the most influential books of C.S. Lewis, and was fundamental in a lot of what he wrote, and a lot of his worldviews and his view on Christianity came from Bunyan's view. And that book was written, if I remember, by an uneducated man that had no formal education, and how he was able to write that and its brilliance and eloquence is, well, scholars have marveled since he wrote it. Obviously divine intervention. A lot of Christians I wouldn't say that they're going to put that book. And when I'm talking about Christians, I'm talking about the real ones that used to be, not today's. That book would have been, Pilgrim's Progress would have been something that would have been kept in addition to the Bible. Not as the Bible or a replacement or even on the same plane, but something so beneficial to the Christian walk that it was in most homes. We have a big, like a family copy of that with illustrations on that. And what it is, if you don't know, is it is an allegory. And that's the way oftentimes that Christ taught, was through allegories. An allegory of a man that is waking up out of the life of sin and waking up to the acceptance of Christ. And that journey and that walk is portrayed in an allegory of this man going on a great journey. And well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's something that you must read. But that difficult putting your hand to the plow, so to speak, and when you decide that you're going to become you're going to become a soldier of Christ or become in the army of God, that your life is not about to get easier, it's about to get harder. You're about to be tested. You're going to find where your weaknesses and deficiencies in your character that you didn't know existed when the enemy starts probing them. So without that armor of God on, without that protection, it's hopeless. So that's why you have to know the Word. That's why you have to know these stories. But we know, even though it's difficult, we know that what the outcome is, and that gives us hope. And that's the thing. That's what people don't have today. That's why so many people give up and jump off bridges, is the lack of hope. And that has been stolen from them by their families not raising them that way. I don't know. Who knows? Everyone's had I don't know why the church has turned into the shadow of what it once was, why it's so toothless and powerless and ineffective. But God won't be mocked, and He will... He'll get it sorted out. He's calling His people together right now. We are being called together right now. And where it goes, who knows? But I want to be on the winning side. But thank you for that super chat. We have a super chat from Jordan S. And Jordan writes, I want to connect you with my friends at Carmex. Look up their history. Eric and Paul are my contacts. Reach out. Carmex. Carmex, is that are you talking about the lip balm Carmex? That's what we used to use when we were skiers. Jason Barr writes, super chat. Shout out to you, Jason. He writes, before you go buying a new knife, check out the Spyderco Shaman. The Shaman. Spyderco Shaman. Should we look that up right now? Spyderco Shaman. I wonder if that's the one that I had my eyes on. I don't know the name of it. I just know what it looks like. Spyderco. Look at this old boomer spelling out the words as he's typing here. Shaman. That's a bold statement there. Well, that does look pretty good. What's the size of it? Oh, I like that green translucent. Oh, I like that green translucent handle. Hey, hey, hey. Look at that. That's probably not going to focus. Well, I can tell, I'll describe it to you. Yeah, that translucent green handle with the straight edge, the shiny, the G10 handle with the satin blade. Yeah, satin. Man, that is nice. It's discontinued, of course. All the cool ones always are. Oh, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, that might be better. That's a more useful, that's a better blade than the Para 3 for just general utility. That's a beautiful knife. $200? Come on now. Just so I can lose another one? I literally lost $400 worth of knives in 2 days. I just can't, I got to stop the bleeding. Okay, we lost our chat here. Here we go. That's a good choice. That's obviously you're a man of taste. No doubt. Thank you, Mr. Barr. We have a super chat from Jordan S. Shout out to you, Jordan, who writes, I want to connect you. Oh, I already wrote that. I should read on there. You know, it makes me nervous being in front of this camera. So that'll give me some grace. Beth Grant DeRusse, shout out to you. Welcome. It's good to see you. Beth has been with us for a long, long time. I think, Beth, are you a fan of cats? This one here, she is not a tame animal. All right, let's get back to work. Well, we got this mean one here. I still haven't got my rib fixed. I think I figured out, I got a rib out of place. That's what's giving me trouble. I got to go see my chiropractor. I've got a great chiropractor, but he's clear in Portland, and it's so hard to get in there. It just takes the whole day. And I've been like, how long am I going to suffer? Why don't I just go in and get it sorted? I'm going to go in as soon as Mrs. W gets back. Oh, that was a glancing blow there. That was not my best shot. Lose my focus. Once that big old axe gets moving, that big German bruiser, there's not much that can resist it. You could chop a chain in half with that thing. I'm afraid it's going to split my chopping block. I've got a couple more outside to replace it. We may have to bolt it up, bolt it to get back together. All right, we'll do the live stream until I run out of firewood, gentlemen. And then I got to get back outside. I think we're going to be working on some heavy timber, almost like a timber frame pallet tomorrow for the fuel cubes. I've got 100-gallon fuel cubes. And I've got them sitting on pallets right now, and they're just too heavy. Gasoline, who knows how much gasoline weighs? How much is a gallon of gasoline? 6 pounds. 6 pounds. Whoa, let's watch the toes. Cat-like reflexes are essential if you split firewood barefoot. If you don't have them, then you won't do it for long. You'll develop them. That's how you develop them. That is definitely loose. I can feel it. Something's not right. So this being Austrian is probably metric, wouldn't you say? Let me go grab my T-handles. Oh no, those are in the trailer. Grab my Allens, we'll tighten that up. That's the cool thing about this design is that when it gets loose, you can simply tighten it up. That's a very clever design. I've never seen anything like this before. So rather than having a traditional eye, you can see there, it's squeezes with these big Allen bolts. I'm really sensitive to anything that's loose. Like I can feel a loose headset on a mountain bike or a motorcycle immediately, and it makes me crazy. Like I have to stop and tighten it. I can't deal with it. I don't like things that are loose and unsecured, especially like holsters and tactical gear. I don't like stuff flopping. I like it tight into the body. Like I've really worked a lot with a lot of different holsters, and I have a pretty good holster system now that I can put it on and forget about it. Yeah, look how, so right now, after I've chopped probably split a cord with this, and it was tight, so I'm gonna do, that's about a quarter turn right there. So I don't know if the wood dried, probably dried. You know, it sits right there next to the wood stove. Yeah, that's a pretty cool design. We'll just keep using it. Time will tell if it's durable, but I don't see any problems. I've even got a few overstrikes in there, but so far so good. Goodness, Mama, we have a super chat. We have 2 super chats. We have a super chat from Kyle B. Shout out to you, Kyle. Kyle writes, "You don't have to sit down, but I'm still hoping to hear that story about the downhill skiing in your excavator." I can tell you the story. Let me go get my water. One of the scariest things that ever happened to me. So when I got out of high school, I went to my dad and said, "So what do you think I should do?" And he said, "Well, do you want to go to college?" And I said, "No, I don't really want to go to college. I want to go make some money. I want to get a truck, you know. I want to get going, get it started a construction company or something." So anyway, he said, "Well, why don't you like running equipment? Why don't you go get some equipment and start a company?" I'm like, "Okay." So I went and I went to this small independent. I still can't believe it to this day that they gave this to me. I must have been 19 or 20. 19, I guess. I went to the small tractor dealer, independent tractor dealer, and they imported gray market machines from Japan. In Japan, they can only run their machines a certain hour, and I think by state law, they have to turn them into new machines. I don't know if it's emission or what it is, but so there's a lot of these machines that are really nice, around 3,000, 3,500 hours. They're just pristine, but they've got crazy Japanese writing on them. So he imports these machines in and puts the factory paint and the decals back on them and resells them. They're nice machines, and it's a way that a guy can get into a machine for quite a bit less money, or it was back in the day. So I thought, well, I need an excavator and I need about a 120 size machine. So I walked in there and said, "I want to buy a machine," and we sat down and he said, "I'll sell you a machine." And we wrote up a contract, and he said, "I'll have it to you. I'll have the painting done in 2 weeks." So I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything in savings. I had a Toyota pickup, a red Toyota pickup. I think that was the only thing I had to my name, but he agreed to finance this, right? He even let me come up with the down payment in the first 4 months. But the rub was I had to make the equipment payment and the down payment at the same time. So, and that was a grip, man. And I remember vividly the 4 times, those 4 months going in there and counting out that money, or writing that check, or whatever it was, to that guy, and it was everything that I had that I worked everything that I was making and scrounging together was going to that equipment payment and the down payment for that equipment. But that was the deal that I agreed to, right? So I was hard pressed when I took delivery of that thing. I had massive debt building. I had really no account set up to buy like materials and pipes for the jobs that I need to do. I had a basic idea how to do the work, but here I was in the excavating business, and that stupid Toyota pickup with no rack on it and no ability to carry anything bigger than about 8 feet. So you can imagine that. So what I didn't realize, it wasn't that easy to land work for a new company, you know, or a new operator. And I was going and talking to builders and just pressing the flesh and just talking to everyone I knew, trying to do anything. I'm like, I'll work for cheaper, I'll do whatever. I'll dig foundations, I'll put septics in, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm your guy, and I'll do it for less than your guy is doing it now. So I picked up a few here and there, but not enough. So in my quest for work, I found myself up in the West Hills of Portland. Now Portland sits on the Willamette River, and to the west is a rise of mountains up into Forest Park where all of the elites live. And the properties up there are very steep and very expensive. There's a lot of homes that are built on stilts. And in the past, before we had access to modern excavators and guys that had just the ability to work on these extreme slopes, there were a lot of lots up there that were just deemed unbuildable. Well, now there was a select few guys, with these spider hose and some very adventurous excavator operators might take a chance and go up there and cut these foundations and make a little bit extra money. So I found out, I was up there, I was willing to do jobs that everyone else turned down because they were too dangerous. But I needed the work, and I did what I had to do, right? So one of these was on very, very steep. I was just finishing it up. I put in a septic system which had to be dug by hand. Actually, I went down, I took my truck and I went down to this place, they used to call it Bologna Joe's. And it was a place where day laborers would wait for work and contractors would go there and pick them up. So, and I had a bigger truck at this time. I think I had a full-size pickup. I might even have borrowed it from my dad. But I had a full-size pickup, and I rolled up there and I said, I need like 6 or whatever I said, because we had to dig this drain field. It was a sand filter, but I had to dig this drain field by hand because of the steepness of the trees and all that. It wasn't possible to dig it with any machine that I had. So I said this and got up there to the job, and I had twice as many I asked for. A whole bunch of dudes jumped in. So we had a big crew. So I put those guys to digging. And then I realized a couple of those poor dudes didn't even have shoes on. And can you imagine trying to dig with a shovel where you have to kick it in? And I felt so bad for them. So like, okay, jump in. And I got these guys, and we ran down to a local store, got these guys some boots and back up. So that took another. So I was a little bit pressed and trying to get this job done. So these dudes were digging, and I was backfilling the house. And I just about had it all done. It was getting dark, and I thought, I'll just come back and finish it tomorrow. I just had to backfill around the back of the house, the steepest part, where it fell down to a really, really steep hill and a road, and then another dip, and then a bunch of houses down there. Well, we went home for the night, and it rained all night. Rain. And I remember just thinking, oh man, that's going to really make that difficult for me. If it wasn't dangerous enough, now it's all going to be slippery and muddy and all that. But I was trapped down there, because I had to get out. I had to do it. So I started working my way around there and backfilled, and I just about had it. And that last little corner, I tried to make it, and that back end sloughed off, and that whole machine started sliding down off of that mountain backwards, and I was looking up with the boom up here, and I'm trying to grab, and I don't have a good bucket, like a good 3-foot bucket or a 2-foot bucket with teeth on it. I've got the big 60-inch muck bucket, which on hard vegetation and stuff, it doesn't grab very good. And I'm just picking up speed, and I felt like I was like, my ass was could have pushed through the bottom of that seat. It was so terrifying, going off of that thing backwards, and me trying to grab onto something. Well, anyway, I come tobogganing down off of there. I must have been going 30 miles an hour by the time I hit that road. scooted across the road. Thank goodness there wasn't any traffic or trucks or anything. Down the other side, through grass, and ended up into one of those like Sears Roebuck garden sheds, you know, those little cheap little whether they tin or aluminum, and just a yard sale of lawnmowers and weed killer and etc. Right? So that's it. That's all I'll tell you. That was the story. So there was no damage to anything other than just a big mess, and that was a terrifying experience. Thank you, Kyle B, for that. Shout out to you. We have a super chat from Gerald Cagney. Shout out to you, Gerald. And Gerald writes, "Hi, Cody, saying hi from Florida. I see that your cat really runs your shop." Gerald, you don't know, man. You don't know. These, they just, you just, I never liked cats. I always thought men that liked cats there was something wrong with them, but I get it now. They really are good companions. If I was a bachelor, if I was single, I can't imagine not having a cat or a dog. You know, they're both great. We have our sweet Lucy in the house, and Mama, she lives out here. Yeah, she's a good cat, but thank you for that. Thank you for that super chat. We have a super chat from Dean Pickett, single Loctite member. Shout out to you, Dean, who writes, "Love the new shop, good on you." Yeah, boy, the new shop is going to fill up quick if we're not careful. We're going to have to be very deliberate about that. That anything that passes through the threshold is something of use and of value. I have stored things that just out of the hope of someday using them, and every once in a while you do go back and like, oh, I wish I would have kept that, but more times than not you don't, and it's just not worth the keeping of it, all that. So we're making hard decisions. We're running stuff to the dump and going to be sell a lot of stuff on, well, you guys know the drill. Just want to have a simple life when I look around that everything has a purpose and a reason. I was thinking of a term for this. We're going to call it something like less but better quality. You know, fewer things. This is what the professional homeowner is striving for. Fewer things, but of higher quality or the highest quality. 3 pair of boots, maybe 3 pair of shoes. Maybe you have a good pair of shoes, a pair of sneakers, and a good pair of boots. You know, whatever. I'm not giving you a number, but whatever it is you decide. Like, what's reasonable for me? What can I get along with? Would you rather have 15 pair of mediocre shoes, or would you rather have a pair of Knicks? You know, would you rather have a pair of, like, a guy could get a pair of these Urban Loggers. It's going to cost you, what, 3 times what you're going to buy, you know, like top of the line Nike. So you get $500 or so for a pair of Knicks, right? Let's say 600, worst case scenario. You pick the color, you pick everything you want, the sole. They're going to be custom. Well, I don't know if they still custom make them, but the way they fit for most guys, unless you have a very unusual fit, it's super awesome. If you want to do custom, you can still go with whites, I think. There's still companies that do it. But if you want them now, you can just go this route, and it's a good way to go. I have mine custom made because I have a weird foot shape, so I have to have it. But so you're going to have $600. You get to wear these beautiful boots that once they break in, you won't know how you got on without them. And then if you take care of them, you're probably going to get, 5 years out of them if you're working in them. Let's say 3 to 5 years. Maybe if you do construction, maybe 2. And then to resole these things, $200, you send them in, and they're going to replace the whole boot for you. And the only thing that will remain will be the upper leather, and that doesn't take any abuse really, because that's protected by your pants. So $200, you get a rebuild of your boots and everything brand new. All the leather, when you get them back, you wouldn't believe it. It's incredible. It's a really good value. So in the long run, that's really the idea, and kind of what I've learned about those things is rather than just buying and buying and buying and following trends, let's kind of stop that and let's do the research and find out, what's the best I can get, what's going to be made by honest folks that are getting paid a wage. You know, the folks that are building these boots are going home to their families in the States here, and they're able to provide for their families from that. So, you know, it takes a little bit of the edge off when you know, yeah, it's a grip to buy a pair of custom boots, but you're talking a lifetime purchase here, right? You know, so for me, I get it. I've always done it. Even when I was working by the wages, all the guys would wear cheap whatever garbage they could buy, whatever's the cheapest, and suffered in those things. And I was making the same money as them, and I put an importance on it. I wore Wesco boots. It made a difference to me. So if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying. We have a super chat, but thank you, Dean. We have a super chat from Adam Matini. Shout out to you, Adam. And Adam writes, I got too much stuff here in my lap. Adam writes, good evening, Mr. Wranglerstar. I watched you since you built the treehouse for Jack. I am a Palestinian and study in Germany. Bless your family. Well, God bless you, Adam, and thank you for watching. You've been with us for a long time. I think one of my favorite parts of winter is you get to wear all these nice boots, wool socks, and your wool shirts. I always preferred the cold, the winter, because when it's cold, I can make the pain. You know, you can make the cold go away. You can go by the wood stove, or you can put on another layer. But when it's hot, it's just nowhere to go. I mean, unless you have water, but you can't be in water all the time. So there's no way, you just have to suffer. So I definitely prefer the winter. I don't think I mentioned this, but we're gonna, I think tomorrow, Jariah's pulled the fuel cells out. I don't know if, we've got those things sitting on those pallets, and then with it breaking through. So I've got some big rough cut 4x4s and some 2x material. I think we're gonna build, I can't decide if I'm gonna build two or if I'm gonna build one. So what I wanna build is basically a big heavy timber pallet that both of those fuel cubes will sit on. Now those measure 24 by 48. So two together will stack on a pallet. So two together will also fit in the back of a pickup, and that's about, so it's 1,200 pounds plus the tanks, 13, 14. So let's say just under 1,500 pounds for 200 gallons of fuel that would fit in the back of a pickup, 4 foot between the wells. So I want to be able to pick that up. The 1,500 pounds is no problem for the forklift on the tractor, the Yanmar, or the Cat. So that's not a problem. So it might make sense to put them both on one. That way you could just fork both of them together, lift them up, put them in the back of the truck. Or would it be better to have the option to have them separate? What would you do? Would you separate them so you could load them individually with their own base, or should they be put together? I can't decide. I go back and forth on that. It'd be easier just to build one, have them move them around together, but then you don't have, and then every time you want to move them, you're just moving a single piece. You might even be able to put casters on them. I need to build it. I need to build an outside on the north aspect of fuel shed with a cover on it. We're gonna have to push that up on the priority list here, as well as the pump house. Goodness, I gotta get on that too. Thank you, Adam, for that super chat. All right, we're down to the last row here. We'll go until we run out of firewood to split. We have a super chat from Alec Vasseur. Shout out to you, Alec. And Alec writes, fan since 2019. Where'd the Amazon tool reviews go? Goodness, we haven't done Amazon tool reviews for a long time. Yeah, I just don't want any more Amazon tools. I want fewer tools. So that's when I think about that, like, oh, that's all I need is to bring more boxes and more stuff in here. I enjoyed doing them; they were fun, but I don't know how beneficial they were. Well, you can never say never, right? But thank you for that super chat, Alec. I sure appreciate it. Now I'm paranoid that thing's loose. Got a nut. Oh, Mama Kid, we got a super chat. You're awfully lazy. Goodness. So soft. You're such a pretty cat. We have a super chat from Chris Wellman. Shout out to you, Chris. And Chris writes, thank you for all the inspiration. As an East Coast professional homeowner, I enjoy making maple syrup in the spring and chopping wood by hand. Always makes me think of that. Much love. Isn't it the best, Chris? It absolutely is. You know, so everything is about our attitude, how you look at things. I was stressed. My default is to get into this really stressed out manic mode, and I don't know why. It was like if I'm hearkening back to being a little kid and my dad being a taskmaster, you know, shouting and just the intense level that he worked at. Oftentimes, you know, just wasn't, for me as a child, it wasn't a joy. And I find myself getting into that default position, and when I'm trying to lay out my day, and I'm thinking, well, I've got to do this, and I've got to make a couple shorts, and I've got to all this stuff, and then I've also got to bring firewood, and I can't do the live stream because I got to do the firewood, and I'm not, well, getting to the point where I'm you get yourself worked up, and I can even feel my heart rate increasing where I'm just not enjoying anything and I'm just rushing through it all, and it's awful. It's an awful experience. The Holy Spirit speaks to me, right? Slow down. Slow down. Calm down. Stop a moment. It's something, it's one of the most difficult things for me to get over. Even right before this live stream, I try to set things up so everything has a place, and I deal with a lot of camera equipment and lenses and such, and so I need to have a dedicated area for that, or like a fiddle table where I can change lenses and batteries. That's all that is. And I was wanting to, and I thought, well, I can do the live stream because I'm stacking wood in here anyway, and I was like, well, I'll just get the camera. How hard will it be, So I didn't have my table cleared off, and I'm trying to change lenses, and I feel myself just getting into that state where I'm starting to get stressed out and not enjoying anything. And I thought, I was really looking forward to doing a live stream. How nice would that be? We'll just not have a bunch of cameras. We'll just turn it on. We'll get to sit down and chat and hang out, and it'll be easy. But because my work area is all cluttered, I'm moving stuff around, and the Holy Spirit just speaks to me and just says, just stop. Take a breath, stop, and slow down. It doesn't matter. Fix it. If it's not right, if it's not working for you, fix it. Okay, stop. We'll take a moment. Take a breath. Look at what it is that's causing you difficulty. What is it that's stressing you out? What's stressing me out is I've got a $2,000 lens in my hand that just about rolled off onto the concrete because of clutter, as I didn't put the things away from the last project I started, because I never learned anything. So he speaks to me, fix it. All right, put things so nothing's going to get broken. Take 3 minutes, put things where they belong, get back to your task. Now I can enjoy my work. Now I'm not rushed, I'm not stressed, I'm not breaking, I'm not damaging things. I don't know why that's such a hard lesson for me to learn. And even before that, an hour before that, I'm going through the same thing. I'm trying to get the firewood brought in. And the Holy Spirit speaks to me, and reminds me, like, this is everything that you wanted. This is everything that you asked me for. You wanted to have a place up in the mountains. You wanted to have a wife that adores you. You want to have healthy, happy children that are thriving. You want to have these chainsaws and a quad and a place where it snows and have a wood stove in your shop. All these things are right here in front of you. You're living it. This is your reality. These are the things that you have striven for and dreamt of having. And here you are, you can't even enjoy it because of this manic state you're getting in, because you always think you have to be working or moving. And you can stop and enjoy this. It was a very powerful lesson for me, and I did right there. I just stopped for a moment and looked around and took a breath and thought about my kids warm inside and everyone's healthy and there aren't any problems currently, and to enjoy this and the stacking of this wood and having a quad that you can put the wood in. I would have dreamed of having that someday on the old homestead when I had to do everything with a four-wheeler. So I've been there before. I didn't start this way. I know what it's like to cut all your wood by hand. I understand that. And here we are. But that's the trap. That's why you can never really arrive anywhere, and you'll never arrive as a Christian either. No matter where you're at or how easy your life may be, He'll find a snare for you. He'll find a way of taking from you any joy that you may be able to find through the peace that comes from knowing God. And it's a struggle, gentlemen. I'm in it daily, nightly, all the time, and you'll be in it all the time. But never good anything came from something that was easy. Always the effort, the sense of accomplishment that Jack and I had from enduring that 24-hour race was, I was on a high for a week after that. Just not because we did anything extraordinary, but just because I challenged myself, just because I pushed myself out of my comfort zone in that one thing, and like that's what living was like. That's what living was, really felt alive and excited, and my personality coming back that I had before all of the COVID and the blackpilling that has come from, you know, the realizing, you know, that things are not the way that we're told they were. Anyway, I'm ranting. Thank you for that, Chris Wellman. I don't think I even finished here. Chris goes on to say, I enjoy making maple syrup in the spring, chopping wood by hand. Always make, yeah, it's the best, isn't it? That's one thing East Coast man can understand of what a proper winter is like, and that what it's like. And you guys have such great traditions. I've been up there before and have toured some of the big maple syrup farms and saw how they did all the tubes, and it's pretty nice over there, I have to admit. The upper Northeast, if you're going to be an East Coast guy, it's not so shabby. We have a super chat from Isaac. Shout out to you, Isaac. Isaac writes, my very first cat in my life, from when I was born to about 8 years old, was named Mama Kitty. You hear that? You hear that? You're not the original. No, you're not. You should get those tools off your perch. Love hearing you say her name. Keep up that great context. Yep. Well, I named her Morris after the, was it the Meow Mix commercials when I was a kid? And then we found out that she was female. That name didn't stick. Didn't stick, did it? Yeah. You and me, we like peas and carrots, aren't we? We have a super chat from Samuel Roman Emerson. Shout out to you, Samuel, who writes, everything you have said, I relate to so much. I'm 24 and struggling with the same stuff, sir. Love your content, and God bless you and family. Yeah, that's the thing, man, is that, you know, I've always kind of thought, this is stream of consciousness here, I haven't developed this thought here, but I've always kind of thought that there was there was nobility in going it alone, being the lone wolf, you know, the Sigma grind guy, all that. And I've always been that. I've always done that. I've always been that way. I've always spent so many hours. I thought I've spent more time eating alone in restaurants than I have with other people. And usually I work for myself, sole proprietor, you know, construction or something. And so I've always been alone. And then I worked as a construction superintendent, you know, and that's a very lonely job and such. But I always liked it. I never minded it. But I think that that's fine. Maybe I think that's probably easier when you're younger. Maybe it's because I'm older now, and it might be because I think the world's getting more dangerous. And when the world gets dangerous, when you're under attack, you know, you circle the wagons. You start finding folks that maybe you had petty differences with, that maybe you don't have, and you start coming together and for self-protection in a way. And you know, I realize that in these end times, you know, when the Christian church starts being persecuted, you know, there aren't going to be, the body of Christ is not a single person. You know, you need other people. You're going to need help. You're going to need contacts, and you're going to need, you might need to help them. And I don't, it's just part of the awakening. I think the awakening of God shaking out true believers, the remnant, the final, who's going to be on the side of God in those days. I think he's bringing us through changes. And for me, it could be the changes of just no longer being comfortable with synthetic fabrics or whatever that's about, to not wearing shoes, to wanting to give up alcohol, things falling off me that I have, you know, pet sins and things that I have clung to my whole life. But, you know, this thing with this not being able to relax and to enjoy my work has, for me, has really been the latest struggle. And I just kind of assumed that I was the only one like that I had, that this was just something that I suffered because I had weird parents or something. But, you know, hearing that other people have experienced that as well is it's definitely comforting. It's like, well, it's good to know that we're not all apart. And I'm also starting to realize that I think it's by design, whoever it is, you know, that runs the show or is benefiting from us as just basically being a working class. It seems that they would benefit from keeping men from having the ability to get together and to talk and to share these things. and to form relationships and bonds. Because when men come together for things, that's when governments change. That's when history is made. And if men can't get together, or because they grew up in a particular society that didn't really allow that, or stripped us of that, then we're going to find a way. Nature is always going to find a way, and that way now, for me and for us, we're live streaming, we're hanging out together, and we're having these conversations and of hope. Because our enemy, you can think that our enemy might be a three-letter agency or a terrorist or whatever, and it very well may be, but that's really small potatoes in the big fight. The big fight is the great controversy between God and Satan, and what side you're going to fall on that. And that's the real battle. That's the real spiritual battle. These other things, you can be aware of them, you have to be careful, but I wouldn't live in fear of those things. But this is really the only way we can speak these things and say, I guess, have these thoughts together, is because I don't know that you really can have a private men's club anymore. I mean, back you would have been, men would meet at the pub or at union halls, the Elks Club, all the different social clubs that men have met with, because men have known for a long time that as much as they love their wives, they need to have time away from them, and they need to have time in the company of other men. But if we tried to do that today openly and say, hey, we want to have a men's only lodge where this is not open to women, this is open to me and my fellow brothers, that probably wouldn't be possible today. And they would come, women would come, and the men that they have under their control would come and force you to do whatever their will was. So the only way we can really meet is, or can we? But the church will be driven underground in those final days, and we'll need each other. So we will need each other. But it's all a changing, it's when you start walking with Christ, you'll be surprised how many things change in your life. We have a super chat from Heavy G. Shout out to you, Heavy. And Heavy writes, I'm 54, and when you talk about being a child with your grandfather, it makes me miss mine so much for those simpler days. Bless you and your family. Yeah, thank you, Heavy G. Yeah, no, I had those same things. It is easy to be nostalgic for those, but that's what old men do. We've always done that. My dad always would tell me that the new Coke doesn't taste as good as the old Coke used to, and the old Lay's potato chips were, maybe they were. They probably were. Everything, yeah. Well, there's no point of going on and complaining about what they're doing to us and how they're poisoning us and how they're lying to us. There's no point, because there's nothing we can do about it. We have to just adhere. We just have to not participate in it. Say, oh, you say this? Oh, that's fine. That's fine. You go do whatever you want to do. But as for me and my family, we're going to conduct ourselves in a particular way. We're going to accept some things. We're going to not accept others. We're not going to go against our core beliefs. We're not going to accept your humiliation rituals, and we're just not going to accept it. So if that means that we can't eat at this restaurant, then we don't eat there. That means that we can't fly, well, then we don't fly anymore. That means that we can't make YouTube videos, well, then we go do something else. We go drive truck. We do what we do. But we'll all have to give an account. What did you do with the talents that were given you? And, I've wasted so many of those opportunities that God has given me, to be, to share His message and to maybe, I don't know, who knows what could have happened. But I know there's been opportunities that I've missed. And what I fear is there can come a point in your life where we talk about the grieving of the Holy Spirit, where you can become so hard and so calloused, and you've rejected the urgings of the Holy Spirit and rejected the urgings of God so many times that you become calloused and you can no longer hear it. It's almost like a hard carapace or a shell builds up around you that makes your soul impenetrable, and not even God's urgings can get through to you. And that's when you're lost from God, when He can no longer speak to you and help you, where He finally has to just let go of you. And that's where people are lost. And every time we miss out on that opportunity to do good when we know, to help a brother in need when we know, but we don't. And those are far and few in between. We want to take advantage of them. And we don't want to be found wanting on that great and terrible day. Goodness, can you imagine? We have a super chat from Alex Vasseur. Shout out to you, Alex, who says, "Is Grand Force Brooks axes the best? I've not found any better." Yeah, I don't know about all of the individual artisans, but even with that, I've had axes from artisans that handles loosened up the moment I got them, and I've not had the Grand Force Brooks do that, apart from one. I just had the first one loosen up the other day, that little hand axe. But I think so. I think they are the best. And not only in the quality of the craftsmanship, the materials and the craftsmanship is important, but they adhere to the heritage. You know, they understand that a tool is not just a tool, but a tool handle was developed in an axe head over years from countless hours of use, and they've evolved into as efficient a tool as could be possible. You have to remember that these tools had to work with the human body, so they had to work perfectly. They had to be very sharp, and they had to work ergonomically, because if you're out swinging an axe all day, it's got to work with you. It can't be just a club. It's got to be a tool that is very well honed and designed to work with the body. And they understand this. For tool makers today, where you take a chainsaw, you know, the example I always use, you can have a chainsaw with a dull chain on it, and with a little bit more effort, you'll get through that log, but it's really not that much difference to you one way or another. It puts load on the saw, you know, it tears other things up, but for you, not so much. But if you're making a living with a crosscut saw, you know, that tool, if it's not working properly, you know, then you're not productive. So they understand this, and they run a pretty good museum there in Sweden, and they do research, and they kind of track and remanufacture some of these old designs, and they're always thinking about that. So I think they're my favorite for sure. We have a super chat from Jason Barr. Shout out to you, Jason, who writes, "Food for thought regarding free will. God is not in control, but he is in charge." Yeah, not in control. That's true. How do we know that to be true? You know, you got to be careful. Here's a perfect example. Now, Mr. Barr is never going to set us wrong here, but some people will. You know, they can say something like that, and I can read that, and I can say, well, is that true? I can't believe it just because Jason said that. Well, I know it's true because I have scripture. We can back that up, right? And then, what other things that's so amazing is, you know, you can change God's mind even. There's a story of Abraham. We know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Abraham and Lot. Lot was his nephew, and they were called out of their family land and came to settle and to start, you know, the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? But Abraham and Lot. So I forget what was the point I was getting here. Free will. Oh, anyway, so they end up, long story, you can go read it, but it ended up that the two families started feuding. There wasn't enough land. They were sheep herders, and they were prospering in livestock, and they were arguing over wells, and finally Abraham said, look, this isn't working. I'll tell you what, you take your pick, whatever you want. There's lots of land here. If you say you want this land, then I'll go over here. And if you want to go over there, then I'll take here, but I'll let you pick. And he looked down across the valley there, and he picked the best for himself. And in those possessions was the city of Sodom there, right? So he went down in there. And there's a lesson in that as well, as you take a man that was living with his herds and his flocks and his wives and his children and prospering with his uncle Abraham. Well, the enticement of the city lured him in. And pretty soon, closer and closer, he's into the city, and now he's full-time in the city. And now we know the story of Sodom, right, and how depraved that city was. Well, when God looked down and saw this, he sent the destroying angel. But before he went there and destroyed that city, he stopped by Abraham's for a snack. I don't mean to be irreverent here, but it's a great story. And once Abraham realizes what's going on, he tries to intervene. And he's like, oh man, I don't want God to destroy that city. You know, I've got friends down there and all that. And so he starts to negotiate with the angel of God, right? Well, if you could find a righteous man, God, you would, if you could find 100, or I don't remember what it was, the numbers. If there was someone left that was righteous in the city, you wouldn't destroy it, would you? And he goes on and negotiates the destroying angel down to a small number. And it's really quite incredible when you think that the creator of all things that spoke existence, energy, matter into existence with a word, would consider his servant Abraham's, would allow him to negotiate that and change his plans. It's pretty incredible thing. So that the idea that we're just these robotic automatons that have to follow these old ancient 10 commandments is just not true at all. Yeah, you have free will. You can go in many different directions and God will make corrections. God has a plan for you, and it's like a partnership. I think that a person could get to the ability where you could walk so closely with God that your will and his will are so in tune and so in alignment that you are of the same mind. You are individual, separate people, but there's just a right way to do things. There's a right way that things are done, and there's a wrong way, and God knows this right way. And oftentimes we don't understand that, and we think we know the right way, but it's not. But God will meet us where we're at, but always he's trying to bring our rebellious will back in alignment with him. And that's the Christian walk. It's not going to zip in and you're going to be walking tandem in tandem, shoulder to shoulder, arms around each other, agreeing in everything. That's not the way it's going to be. Even in the kingdom, even go back to the very, very beginning, that a third of God's children, think of that, he lost a third of his angels to someone that questioned whether God had the authority to be the sovereign. And there they were in his very presence, and yet they weren't convinced. And he allowed them to have different opinions. He didn't just, the moment he heard that there was a rebellion in his kingdom, just snap his fingers and make everyone disappear. If he had done that, then how could you serve a God like that? You would never be able to serve him out of love. You would serve him out of fear, knowing that the moment I say anything or think the wrong thought, that he's going to snap his fingers and he's going to make me vanish, just like he did Lucifer and a third of my brothers that were here. So that free will aspect that Christians are always going on about is very important. So that should tell you right there. They had the choice, even in the kingdom, to leave and to rebel. There's a lot to unpack there. This real Christianity is not the simpleton, childlike nonsense that you've been raised with. It is this is a man's religion. This is a fighting religion. This is something that will change your life, and you need to find out for yourself. And it's not the soft soap that you've been served, many of you, many of us. We've had a belly full of that old Western Christianity, haven't we, gentlemen? We've had a belly full of it. We have a super chat from Clam. That's a good one. Just Clam. Blessed to hear your knowledge and experience. Can you show us how you reload the wood stove? The Stirling seems to be running slow. Yes, I sure will, Clem. Should we turn that? Is that camera on there? Can you see that? Maybe we'll zoom you up here. I wasn't promising any high production, but look at what I'm bringing you. Hit that thumbs up, gentlemen. We're working hard out here for you. Okay, just for Clam. Looks like the stove's getting low. I clean the ashes. I should clean the ashes out every day, but it's such a mess. I just do it once a week. And there's so many hot coals in the morning that I don't want to disturb them. So once a week. So it'll cool down over the Sabbath, and then Sunday I'll clean it out, and then we'll start the week again. So I turn the bypass off over here, which turns off the catalytic converter, which just opens a door and gives it a free flow, and that way smoke won't come out when I open it. You open it slowly. Now that's a good coal bed in there. And I'll break these guys up here, hopefully try to keep them from rolling out. Putting the crook in my poker has been the best thing. Just kind of make a flat spot there. And I usually about throw 3 or 4 pieces in. I like these little ones. This size is nice for this stove. That's why I'm splitting them right now. Just like that. Lay them in there flat. And then lock this guy here. And then I've got a thermostat over here. Turn that bypass back off. Actually, if you want to get a little flame going there for some ambiance, we can open that up there, give it a little bit of air. We'll get the Stirling picking up some speed. Okay, that's how we do it. Back on that high production. Star of the show there, Mama. Is that where we were at? That's probably good right there. I don't know if I like all the new changes in the YouTube app here. I lost my chat. I have to go back to the original source here. YouTube makes it very difficult to share a chat link for some reason. We have but thank you, Clam, for that. We have a super chat from Bradley Castaneda. What's your outlook on the 2023 winter weather? Man, it's hard to say. You know, the common theme, what I keep hearing from the local guys around here, we live in an interesting place in that there are a lot of families that are multi-generational, so they really know the area, like no other place. Like I talk to my neighbor, he tells me of places to go snow biking, to explore. It's just incredible, his knowledge. He actually used to build the trail, maintain the trail around Fuji for the Forest Service, so he knows everything. And snowmobile. He used to ride snowmobiles to the summit, the old ones with steel tracks on them. He's a tough old dude. He says, and a lot of other loggers says, that the weather is definitely changing. HVAC guys are saying that the weather is changing. HVAC guys I talk to are saying there are places up in like the Hood River Valley that have never had air conditioning before, never needed it. And again, families have been there for a long time that are installing air systems, and they're all saying it's hotter than it used to be. It's hotter. We're having to change our farming practices and such. So, is things changing? It's man-made? I don't know. I don't know. Is it by design? You know, is there something with all these con things? You know, there's who knows. It just seems that the adversary is in everything. You have to assume that he's in everything. He's in the cartoons. He's in the processed food. If it's coming from these big corporations, and we're seeing all the time, more and more often, you see recalls and poisonings and strange ingredients in foods and such. It's a difficult thing to weed out. A lot of us don't have the time to become food researchers, you know, and look into everything. You know, the guy just wants to work and eat. So the only way that I can really get around all that, I think, is a common sense method, is just eat as much local stuff and as fresh stuff as you can, and less processed. You know, make things from scratch as much as you can. Make things out of real potatoes instead of powdered potatoes, and get good water. You know, a lot of this filtered water also, gentlemen, is not good for you. Just because it's ran through a filter and it strips it of all its minerals and all the things that your body requires. If you have access to non-filtered water, or you can get water out of your well if it comes from a good source, just the vitality that comes from that and the health benefits are hard to know, I think. But I think there's something to it. But again, you know, not everyone lives in an environment where they can have that, and not everyone has access to these things. So that's what I trust and hope that, you know, that God will fill in. You know, there's scripture that says that in the final days, you know, that when Christians are persecuted, you know, they won't be harmed by things that they eat. And I've always wondered about that. My parents and grandparents took that very literally. And if anyone ever had food poisoning growing up, it was always bandied about and always said, and when you were suffering, it wasn't very much help. And thinking back, I don't know that I ever remember anyone dying from anything that they ate. What their status was as with God, I don't know, but I don't really know what that means. But I know that we can only do so much, right? And if he's going to judge someone, well, you're not in the kingdom because you ate too many Doritos. You know, I don't think we're talking about that. What we're talking about is that those Doritos can degrade your mind and your body, combined with just, I'm talking if that's all you eat, just a general unhealthy truck stops type of lifestyle, that can degrade your body and your mind to the ability where you don't have near as much ability to connect with God and to read and study and understand His Word. I mean, there's a lot to this. We're under attack by many facets. It's not just one particular pet sin that you might be struggling with. You know, as soon as you get victory over that through the help of, you know, of our Savior, then there'll be two more that pop up that you didn't even know you had. So you have to be on your guard. You can do it, but it's going to be a fight, especially in these last days. But I don't know, Bradley. The point is that I try to get a read on it, and the guys that I would know, they don't know either. So I don't know. Just be prepared. Be prepared for, have some gas on hand. Just think about, where are you vulnerable? How are you going to deal if your power's off for a couple weeks? And how are you going to deal if you can't get diesel or fuel? So I'd have some cans and some extra food, 3 months of food, just some basic things, some lights, some batteries, and a plan. Just an idea. What am I going to do if this happens? Pre-plan, make those plans, and just keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open and live your life. Enjoy it. Don't be a doomer. We have a super chat from Ian. Ian writes, "Hi Cody, been watching you for years. Thank you for great content and outlook on life. I'm not a religious man, but have great respect for your faith and values that is represented. Maybe someday. Best wishes from England." Absolutely. And yep. No. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know. And that could change. You know, could change for both of us. I could fall away. You could fall into. So never say never. The thinking man, I think, understands and realizes that if he were given sufficient evidence, he would correct any mistakes that he had made in his life. And really, that's what it came down for me. And if you're not there, then you're not there. It's not for any one of us to judge. And if you were here living next to me and made that profession, you would be as close a friend as any to me. It wouldn't make any difference to me. Let every man be convinced in his own mind, is what I say. I'm not one to be up here proselytizing, to be making judgments. I know my character. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm lucky to even be here. So I've got no business be judging you or other people. So we've all work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. The good book tells us, right? We have a super chat from JT West, who writes, "Just saying hello from the East Coast." Well, you know our East Coast friends are always welcome here. We have a super chat from Jason Barr, who writes, "Men, it's time to pick up the sword. No longer be a friend of the world. Do not make peace with evil." Yeah, there it is. There it is right there. That is a call to arms for the Christian struggle, the spiritual struggle. Now, again, I have to preface, we're not talking about picking up arms to go hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want any violence. We're talking about a spiritual battle. That's the one that God's church will fight in the latter days. And when you're a strong spiritual warrior, there's nothing anyone can do to your physical body that can separate you from the love of God. It's very encouraging to me, Jason. Your comments are very encouraging to me, and I appreciate them. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's nice to know you're not alone. Do not make peace with the evil. So many, those of us who are men of the book who like to read and study prophecy are seeing it. We're seeing it unravel, unfold in real time. You know, it talks about women in the final days, that women will become so brazen and independent that they'll say, that they don't have need of men anymore, but just give us your seed, to take away our how far can you go with this here? But these things are happening right in front of us. You see what's going on with the river Euphrates? You should look into that. That's very interesting. Martin Rose, congratulations. Our newest member, welcome and shout out to you, Martin. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for being an encouragement to me. Sometimes you wonder, am I a lone lunatic crying in the wilderness? A lone voice crying in the wilderness. Going to be a lone voice splitting some firewood here now. Eye has not seen, nor has it entered into the hearts of men, the things that God has in store for those that love him. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. But the greatest of all, I think my favorite, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just. Ouch, goodness. It's my own fault. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us of all unrighteousness. That's an amazing promise. That's not asking a whole lot from you either, is it? That's how you start right there, gentlemen. That's how you start it. You realize that there's something greater than you. You realize that your very existence was bought at a great price and that you have an obligation. And that obligation is spelled out in the Christian walk. But the reward, you know the thing when you, I was waiting for that to happen. How tough is that glass? That was a glancing blow. I'm going to change my angle a little bit. I think if we chop from over here, it'll pop a little bit to the right. Mama Kitty, we have a super chat. We're coming in. I think she's kind of a fan. You get some more attention when I come over here, don't you? We have a super chat from Zach Wilkerson. Shout out to you, Zach. Thank you for your generosity. Zach just turned 21. He's been watching since he was in middle school. I love you so much. Well, thank you, Zach. I sure appreciate that. It's good to see definitely good to see young men here. Good to see, it gives us older guys hope. It definitely does. Oh, Isaac. Thank you, Isaac. Isaac said, I missed a super chat. Scroll up, you missed it. Thank you, Isaac. Appreciate that. Who did I miss a super chat from? Jason? Isaac? Oh, Isaac. I'm sorry, Isaac Leonard. Shout out to you, Isaac. We have a super chat. Hey, Cody, was watching an hour behind and heard you talk about C.S. Lewis. Read him last year in college. Changed my life. Highly recommend the Space Trilogy. Yeah, some guys, his sci-fi stuff, it's not everyone's taste. I personally didn't enjoy it that much. I preferred some of the other writers, but goodness, his other stuff. All right, we're going to start the required reading list right here for the professional homeowners. If you're a pro ho like me, then there's some books that you need to have under your belt. Number one is going to be Mere Christianity. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Go get your library card or whatever you have to do. Get it on Audible. Overdrive, you can get the Overdrive app. If you have a library card, you can download Audible-style books for free. If you're on a budget, that's a good way to do it. Just go to Audible and go to your local library and get a card. That'll tie you into a database where you have access to all the contents of the whole library. Mere Christianity. Now, I'm not going to bog you down with a bunch of Christian books. You should have something enjoyable in between that, right? Space it out a little bit. Not everyone wants to. Even the devout Christian that was stuck in the Shackleton. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. How'd that happen? Go get your library. And the boats that Shackleton had to abandon and come back and get. There was a man that was in there. It was a very devout Christian. And even he got tired of reading the Bible and asked to borrow some other books. So we don't want to have it to all be that. But start with that, and then as far as the next book that I'd recommend would be, if you want a good time, read Three Men and a Bummel. I don't have the author. Maybe someone could pull up the author. This is one I would recommend. This is family friendly. Save this book. Have it downloaded on your phone for your next road trip. Or you're going to go somewhere with your wife or girlfriend, you're going to be in the car for an hour, and just save it for that and pop that on and listen to that with your family, and you will enjoy it and you will laugh. It is so wonderful. And just wait till you meet the Jack Russell Terrier, Montmorency. Fabulous, fabulous book. After that, you should read, number 3 on the Proho list is going to be the Screw Tape Letters. We'll stick with that. We'll get back into that. Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. That will be 3. After that, you want a fun one? Starship Troopers. Excellent book. Ender's Game. Excellent book. So many. I'll have to come up with a list. We'll have to make the official top 100. We'll work on that. There needs to be a badge for that. It's something to read the top 200 classics. I've done it in the British top 200 and the American top 200. That's a great way to give yourself a kind of a ghetto scuffed classical education, especially when you do it on audiobooks like I did. Super chat from Steve Kozlowski. Oh, he's asking me the tough question here. Jordan Peterson. I don't trust him. I don't understand half the things he says. I know he's obviously intelligent. He obviously says some good things, but he talks a load of nonsense as well. I mean, sometimes he's just talking and saying things, and I mean, it sounds good, but I mean, is there really any application to it? My question would be, is he bearing fruit? What are his fruits? Is he leading an example of a good, strong, moral Christian life? Well, look at his daughter, Michaela. Look at the recent problems with rehab and the drug addiction, and whatever happened there. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of, where's his wife? I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and you have someone telling you to go clean up your room and to do all these things, and yet his entire life is in chaos, and his daughter's life is in chaos, and he's giving advice. I don't trust him. I don't know. I don't believe he's a Christian. Judging off from what I've heard him say, every time I say that, people say, "Oh, he's as if all Christian, just because someone labels someone a Christian as if they're all the same." It's like I don't know. I just don't. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. Something seems off with him, and his life has been a wreck. I don't know. I'm all about the redemption story. I don't want to dump on the guy. Does it really matter what I think? But you asked me. I don't trust him. And why is he being pushed? He is pushed everywhere. I cannot open any social media, whether it be YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, where he is a constant stream on there. And I've made a deliberate effort to go in and unlike or even go in and say, filter content like this. I don't want this, and I can't get away from him. He's everywhere, and I don't stop on his stuff because I don't trust him and I don't like him. So, I don't know. I don't trust that. Anyone who's got the truth is not going to be pushed by the powers that be. I mean, that right there should tell you a lot. Controlled opposition, I don't know. My room is clean. I don't need to clean my room. Mr. Manson, we have a super chat from Mr. Mason, who says, "Hello, Cody. I'm 20 and a longtime fan. Your videos have helped me through rough times. I was raised Christian, but have strayed from God and struggle to rebuild my spiritual relationship. Any advice? Best to you and yours." Goodness, brother, I can relate to that. No, and you may find that you may go in and out several times as you mature and age. I've struggled with the same thing. Keep going back. You keep thinking, here's what happens to me. What's always the case is that I'll get myself in such a state in life where I've strayed from God. I stop praying. I stop reading, stop studying, start getting into secular music, and then you start making concessions at other places, and then pretty soon you find yourself, you're just so far away that you just don't, you think that it's just hopeless, and you just don't know where else to go. And I don't know why it is that at that moment, that's when I always finally realize, like, I just can't do this. I'm miserable. I'm thinking about eating a gun. I mean, I've tried everything. Drugs, women, nothing brings, it's just, all of it is just so empty. You find your way back. It's the common story. Or find your way to God for the first time. What He'll do is dust you off and just get you back on your feet and put you in a clean set of clothes and get your feet set on the straight and narrow, and even walk with you a little bit, hold you up a little bit, get you going until you're up and going. And you might even be running and you're just doing really great. Got your life back together and God's on your side and you've got a good spiritual walk with Him and you're spending time reading and you're growing. And then things are going so good and they're so easy, you start slacking, you start slipping. And you stop praying in the morning and you stop reading, and there's really, the falling away that you find yourself into is not so much that you found some evidence or some proof that disproves Christianity. It's just that you just kind of quit doing your part, and you kind of just got lazy and got consumed with the cares of this world and just didn't make that a priority. And if you don't make friendships your priority to maintain them, if there isn't reciprocity, then you have no friendship at all. If your best friend wouldn't receive your texts or return your calls or ever invite you over for events or anything, that friendship would be over. Sometimes we don't realize that God is a person as well, and He has feelings as well. He made us in His very own image. And if something hurts us or slights us or disrespects us, He feels the same way. So I don't know what to tell you other than that's kind of the way it happens, and that's been my cycle as well. But for what it's worth, from someone that has, I haven't lived to the excesses of Solomon, but I have experienced the world, what the world has to offer in pretty much most levels. And I can tell you that true happiness let's not say happiness. I don't think that it's possible to be happy all the time. And if you are, something's wrong with you. Let's use the word contentment. True contentment and true peace can only come from walking with your Savior. That's just the way it is. You can hide it, mask it, with drugs, excitement, thrills, women, but you got to go to sleep at night. You got to look that man in the mirror. And I can just tell you from personal experience that's where it's at. That's where happiness is, and that's where peace is. And the family really makes you strong as a man if you can find it, if you can make it, if you can find that elusive woman that shares your values, if you can come together in a spiritual marriage in a godly home. It's a very powerful combination. You're very much immune as a man. I can't speak for a woman, but as a man, you're very much immune from a lot of temptations that a bachelor may succumb to. To be honest with you, it would be very difficult to entice me, for a woman to entice me away from Mrs. W. What I have at home, we're getting older. We're not as as hot and good looking and bodies as good as it used to be, but I have no less desire and regard for that woman because of her loyalty to me and how much I trust her and her faithfulness to me. and how we've come up together and we've struggled together and we have a bond that's so tight that there's just no one that could duplicate that. There's no one that could replace that for me. There's nothing that could entice me away from that. Why would I throw this all away for what? For some hoe? So the family is important because it makes you strong. It gives you the ability to resist and to, yeah. It's tough, man. I hate saying all this when there's with the way Western women are today and the difficulty with dating and finding someone of value. You're just going to have to learn. You know, if you can't find that, you're just going to have to accept the fact that you're just going to be on your own, and you're going to have to find contentment and satisfaction in whatever it is you find to do as a bachelor. You know, I haven't walked that life. I haven't lived that life. My whole life has been spent. You know, I was under the illusion as well. You know, I was completely under the illusion of, you know, the American dream and all things were fair if you only worked hard enough, and there's someone for everyone and all that. But that's just not true anymore. And the sooner we realize that and start living and getting on with it, I guess the better. There's a lot of benefits to not having, in these last days, to not having a family tying you down. You know, so I talk a lot about the benefits of my particular situation, but I could make the same arguments for the other side as well. To be able to live simply, to do whatever you want at any time, all the time, to be able to take advantage of opportunities, to be mobile, to be quick, fast attack, to have that lifestyle is very appealing. It would be, you could do a lot of great things. Think what you could accomplish. Goodness. Think what you could accomplish if 100% of your resources as a smart, hardworking man that's making some good money. Think of what you can sock away if you're living frugally in a camper or just in a modest home. You know, you'd be calling the shots in 10 years, 20 years. I don't know. I don't have any answers, brothers. We're struggling together here. We have a super chat from Daniel Cafone, and Daniel writes, I'm a devout Buddhist, though I find comfort in good Christians like yourself. We share the same moral compass, and it's always good to have allies in this time of spiritual war. Good men will prevail. Yeah, I hope you're right, Daniel. Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope they do prevail. God will prevail, God's side will prevail, but we're going to have a hard time of it. And this life of ease and comfort is going to change for a lot of us. The writing's on the wall. Did you see those layoffs down in Silicon Valley? Was it 12,000? 12,000 people laid off at Facebook. Those are, you know, a lot of those jobs, probably the majority of those jobs are good paying. Those are probably six-figure jobs. Those are probably from people that were not prepared to be in that situation. You know, are they flexible? Are they able to make course corrections? Like if you were a single guy and you were one of those 12,000 and you'd been smart about it and saved what you'd made, saved that $150,000 a year and lived frugally in your camper van or something, and they tell you, oh, you're not going to have a job. Is that a crisis for you? No, it doesn't really matter to you. But if you tied down with the family and mortgages and because you were making so much money, you know, thing is when you've got those incomes, you know, you're just as poor as everyone else. You've just got more stuff. You're spending. A lot of people are paycheck to paycheck like that. They're spending on all those things. Yeah. We have a super chat from a friend of the channel, Excavation Nation. Good to see you back. Haven't seen you here for a while. Keep up the good work, brother. Well, thank you. It's very encouraging to me. All right, we got to get back to our split. We got half a row left. Then I thought I was going to get this whole pile done here. This is my canteen. I've had it for 20 years. It's one of the old Nalgene's. It's probably full of the BPA. You know, it's probably before everyone was nervous about that. I don't know. My granddad had a canteen. He kept a World War II canteen in the seat of under his pickup. He had a 77 Ford two-wheel drive pickup. Under the seat on that center console in those Army, remember those Army canteens with the metal cap and it had the green coating on it and the aluminum, it was aluminum. Yeah, aluminum. We drank out of that. I don't think you should be drinking out of aluminum. It didn't seem to hurt. Granddad was a devout Christian, so maybe God protected him from those metals or whatever they were. But my grandmother refused to drink out of that canteen because she said it smelled. And it did have a very distinctive smell. I still have it. I think it's in the Connex. I'll have to bring that back out here. We'll have to bring it out. Maybe we'll drink from it once a year. The same one that Granddad and I used to drink out of. We would go up and get firewood. When I was a little kid, like 5 or 6, he started taking me. And he had an old Ford then. It was baby robin egg blue. And it must have been like I'll bet it was like a 66, 67 F-150 Ford before he got his 3/4 ton. And we'd go up to cut firewood, and he had that canteen. We would stop at this little creek. It was ice cold glacier melt right down off the mountain, and we would stop every time and fill up that canteen. And Granddad named that was Cody's Creek. Cody's Creek, and we'd fill up the canteen in the creek. No water filter for Granddad. And then we would go up and cut firewood. Granddad never had a wood splitter. He had a chainsaw, but he split everything by hand. We split everything by hand when I got bigger. And then we would, on the way down, we would stop and fill that canteen a second time at Cody's Creek and head on down. Granddad would refill it because he said the mountain water tasted better than the water in town. And he liked to have the mountain water in the canteen. But my grandma wouldn't drink from it because it smelled. Women and men are different, aren't we? I was thinking about men's clothing. Men's clothing, how it differs from female clothing. It's usually darker, subdued colors so that it's less likely to show dirt. We're usually out working. It's usually made out of heavy, sturdy materials because that's what we require to protect our legs from hard labor and construction or whatever we find ourselves doing. It's cut usually pretty generous for easy range of motion and good movement. So those of us that working and moving your body and lifting and all that stuff. Pockets, big pockets, usable pockets for utility to put things in that are useful, like pocket knives and flashlights, and it's just different. Designed to protect you from the elements because we're outside, so it's just very utilitarian and logical. It makes sense. Sturdy boots to protect our feet for work, and whether it be firefighting or concrete, whatever, walking on rebar. Or women's, on the other hand, are completely different. Bright colors, light frilly fabrics, ornaments versus utility. If it has a pocket, it'll be some little pocket that's not to be used, but just for fashion or design. Usually cut tight. Very different, us men and women, aren't we? Not hating, just pointing out the differences. We all love women here. Professional homeowners love their women. Thank you, Daniel, for that super chat. That was very generous of you. We have a new super chat from Excavation Nation. Keep up the work, brother. And a super chat from Beth Grant DeRoos. Shout out to you, Beth. Cody, you're making me cry. I miss my son so much. Yeah, I know. Well, one of the best things about being a man of the book and having the blessed assurance that comes from Christ is knowing that those loved ones, that we'll see them again someday. Someday, can you imagine that reunion? I think about that reunion falling upon my grandfather's neck to see him for the first time. It's worth the fight. It's worth the fight. What if you were there with your children? And what have you got to lose? What are you giving up? What are you giving up? What are you giving up that the world has to offer that's so good? What's so good out there that you're enjoying so much that you can't take an honest look?
You know, we're thinking men over here. And we make up our own minds and our own decisions. That's all I'm asking. Go find out for yourself. Ask God to show you and see what happens. And come back here and encourage us, because we're struggling as well. We have a super chat from Stephen Schwartz. Shout out to you, Stephen, who writes, just wanted to encourage you, brother. God is in control and Christ is the answer. This brings the contentment you speak of. I too look elsewhere and learned like you that only God can satisfy. Yeah. Well, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by those messages. I am. I am. You guys are supposed to tell me to close the stove door. I forget it. Burn up all of our wood. I think we might need to put that's pretty hot. Oh, let her simmer down there a little bit. I'm getting a little hot. You know, I'm working so hard here splitting this firewood. I don't know why. I don't think I needed to split that one. We'll just have a big old feather stick there. Yeah, this is a sad old world we live in, gentlemen. The reason why you're not happy is because you weren't designed to be here. You're in occupied territory. There's an occupying force. And it doesn't want you to win. But the cavalry is coming. We just have to hang on and be faithful. We need to encourage one another. And remind one another of all the promises that we have. I'm not sure we're going to get through that guy in the next couple strokes here. Let's flip him around. We got a mean one here. We got an official mean one. That's my granddad always said. Yeah, it's a mean one. It's tough losing those men in your life. It's tough losing your grandfather and then your father. Even though you're doing your own thing, there's something about having them in the background that just gives you a strength or a confidence or maybe a security that goes away when you become that person. That really forces you to turn your attention inward to your own family. You start to understand what an anchor that was for you, and how that gave you the ability to take great risks, and knowing that you had a fallback, and when that fallback is gone, and you've been out in the world enough to know how cruel it is, and it will devour you immediately. That it's a very sobering thing. It really grows you up. We have a new member, Hauser Outdoors. Shout out to you, our newest member with the official West Coast Avatar. All right, we're splitting, gentlemen. We got about a dozen pieces left. "5:30, boy, the time goes by. Old people always say that time moves faster when you get older. I wonder if it's true. It seems that way. I wonder if it actually does. It says, the good book tells us in the last days that the world will get so evil, and the deception among God's people will be so convincing that if God didn't shorten the hours, shorten the days, the final days, that it was possible that his very elect might even be deceived by the adversary. So convincing is the Antichrist in his lies. So we have an example of God shortening time. We also have an example of God lengthening time in the Old Testament. Was it Gideon? Who was it? I got to get back to the Old Testament this winter. The winter is definitely my time to get back to the Old Testament. I haven't settled in yet, but I need to. So I'm a little rusty on these stories. Who was the commander who prayed for God to prevent the sun from going down because they were having such a successful campaign against their enemy that they didn't want to stop the killing? Was that Gideon? I believe it was Gideon. So in that example, God slowed time. Those are the only two that I can, well, that's a mean one there, that I can think of. Goodness, Mama Kitty, we have a super chat. We have a super chat. Super chat for a super cat. Limbo, shout out to you, Limbo, who writes, "It's very nice to see a channel provide valuable advice and setting an example for men. Thank you for what you do." Yeah, thank you, Limbo. That's very generous super chat. Thank you for that. What do you guys think of the new Iron Horse? This is my quilted shirt. Is it handsome? Mrs. W hasn't seen it yet. I think it's real nice. It sure is warm. I haven't had to wear a coat, and it's been down in the, it's got down to 23 the other day. I had a coat on then, but in the I can wear it right around freezing, and it's just right. I wish I would have saved this picture. My sister sent me a picture a couple years ago. She was up, I think she was up in Halfway, Oregon, and they'd rented this little cabin they rent where they go up cross country skiing. She was up there by herself for some reason, but she was trying to get a fire started. So she sent me a picture, and it was all the wood was unsplit, and it looked like it was some naughty, nasty old, it was probably ponderosa pine or some hateful thing like that. And she had this little crummy little hatchet, and she had chopped on one piece, she said, for the better part of 20 minutes, and not one sliver came off there. And she sent a photo of it, and she said, "Look, behold my feather." And she'd picked it up, and it was completely, I mean, there wasn't anything bigger than like a straw. It was all split, but there were so many knots in the middle it wouldn't pull apart. And she had chopped and chopped and chopped on it until she turned it into a feather. It's hilarious. I wish I would have saved that picture. Yeah, you think I'm tenacious. My sister is also. All right, gentlemen, I think we're going to have to wrap up our chat. I'm missing my little girl here. It's getting late. I have to go in there and get her some supper. Jack's been a big help. Jack's a great cook. He loves cooking. His great-granddad was a restaurateur. My dad was a good cook. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did a little bit of that. He does a lot of the cooking, not as much as Mrs. W, but a fair share. He's going to make someone a very excellent husband. She has raised that boy right. He knows how to do laundry. He knows how to cook. He knows his way around a house for sure. What do with my phone? Where did I set my phone, Mama? Oh, I see. I see. we're going to have to, I'm going to take you guys up to the mountain. We're going to have to go up there and check out that snow. I'm a little reluctant to go up there snow biking on the first dump because of the terror beneath. What happens is when it's cold like this, you get a big dump of snow, even if you get 4 feet. And there's no bottom in it. And down underneath there in the forest floor is full of stumps and all manner of things that will gladly take your life and definitely destroy your machine. So not having that bottom in there makes me nervous. I've been in that environment before where it's not fun. You're just waiting for who knows what you're going to find under there. So what you want is a good dump and then a bit of a melt. Warm up a little bit where that snow will kind of settle down in there and form a good hard base, kind of a hard crust, snow that you can walk on that has a bottom, and then start dumping on top of that. Now once you get that, now that's when we're good. Well, I'll take you guys up there. It is amazing, amazing, but not quite yet. I see the snowmobiles are heading up. I hear some guys starting to probe up in there, but I think we need one more storm. One more storm. Goodness, we have a super chat, $50 from Marcel Dufour. Shout out to you and thank you for your generosity. That is tremendous generosity. Thank you. Marcel from Paradise Lost. Before Adam and Eve left Eden, the archangel showed Adam what death, hate, war, murder, starvation, etc. And Adam was in shock, but the angel also told him that part of Eden is going to follow him. Hope is always with us. Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, that's not from the scriptures, but that's very interesting. Can you tell me what is that from? Is that from an apocryphal writing? From Paradise Lost, from the novel, from the book. Paradise Lost. I have read that. I think I started Paradise Lost. That was on my list of classic books, but I don't know that I finished it. I'm going to have to go back and revisit this. So let's talk about this here. I want to read this and think about it. Before Adam and Eve left Eden, the archangel showed Adam what death, hate, war, murder, starvation, etc. And Adam was in shock. Of course he was in shock. You know, he'd never seen that at that time. Think about, here's an interesting thing. So we know that in the kingdom, or in the garden, before Adam and Eve were expelled, they had no understanding of death or decay or any of these things here that Marcel is quoting from the book. He'd never seen war, hate, murder. So what the author is saying, that he laid out before Adam a vision of a world that he didn't even know existed. So what God was doing in the garden was he wasn't just making arbitrary rules, eat this and I'll punish you. He was keeping these children from what he knew what evil was, the knowledge of good and evil. And so he did that by isolating a tree, and he didn't even ban them from it. He's put one tree in the midst of the garden and said, of all the trees of the garden you may eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of fruit of evil, of this tree you do not eat. Because evil was confined to that one area. It wasn't abolished, it was confined. And the children were warned about it. So given every opportunity. It's very interesting. Also, can you imagine the first sacrifice? So the first sacrifices, after they were expelled and they started having children, God brought in the sacrificial system, which was basically a foreshadowing of the coming of Christ. The sacrificial system, the shedding of the blood of the animal, was pointing towards the Messiah to come. But there was no Messiah. And the people of that time needed a way of salvation. They needed a method of getting back to God. And the blood of the animal stood in place of Christ. Because the lesson is important, that the wages of sin is death. And if God is just, then there needs to be justice. And if sin and ultimate judgment comes, the wages of sin is death. So someone has to pay it. It has to be paid. So it's either you pay it yourself or you let your Savior pay it. So everyone will pay, but you'll make the decision whether you pay the penalty yourself or you accept the free gift of salvation and you accept the payment has already been made for you through Jesus. Yeah, I've got some reading to do. Marcel, thank you for that and reminding me. It's going off memory. I think I started that and it was a bit, I don't know if maybe it was a bit poetic or it was not working with me at the time and I set it aside, but I did purchase it, but I need to go back and read that. I might be a little bit more a calmer point in my life now where I might be able to enjoy that or take that in better than when I was originally trying. Thank you, Marcel. Obviously, a gentleman and a scholar. Looks like we have 6 pieces left, gentlemen. We're winding it down. Got a little snow on that one. Doesn't need to be dripping on all the good pieces. I'll crib these up for tomorrow. Let these thaw out a little bit. Some of those are on top are a little wet. Hi, Mama. This is how much wood you can put in the back of a Honda Pioneer, if you're wondering. I stacked it in there tight. You got 2 rows, and then there's room for about a half a dozen pieces in the very back of the tailgate. So it's a fair amount. If you just throw it in there loose, it doesn't hold very much, but if you stack it neatly, it holds quite a bit. Just about enough for a live stream. So satisfying when that bit drives through those, isn't it? Goodness, Mama Kitty, we have a super chat for a super cat. Is that what we're going to do now? Super cat? We have a super chat from On the Water. Shout out to you, On the Water, who writes, "What a pleasant live surprise. How is the tribe?" The tribe is doing well. We're going to finish up here in just a minute, go in and make supper for the tribe. But thank you for that. Appreciate that. And friend of the channel, Noel Hastings, good to see you here. Hey, Cody, when will we see the sweet loaf again? Well, you know, maybe when Mrs. W gets back, maybe she can come in and bring us a little snack, and she can come in and say hi. She's a big girl now. She's 5. She's 5. She's a force. I was going to go into her name. I can't share her name with you, but I wonder sometimes. I'm convinced that the name that the name we've been given by our parents has an effect on kind of our personality or our traits in some way. And the name that I named her, I had the name, I knew what her name was going to be when I was 21. I knew what my daughter's name was going to be because I always knew. I read it in a book, and the moment I heard it and learned the character, I liked it so much that I'm going to name my daughter that name. It turns out that she's just like that character in the book. So I wonder about these things. You know, in the good book, what you named, especially in the ancient Hebrews, what you named your child, you would name it something significant for the time, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, Jacob deceived his brother for his birthright, and his name meant deceiver. So they put a lot of importance on that. And then we also have, you know, like the crowning jewel of everything. You know, when you're in the kingdom, you know, and you've made it. The book of Revelation tells us something very unusual happens, that God gives us a small, smooth stone, and what's written on that stone is a new name, a name that no one knows except for you and God, a unique name. Now, what's that all about? That's really interesting. Obviously, names are very significant, and in at times of the patriarchs, when God was about to do something great, He even changed the names of them. I mean, He changed, from Abram to Abraham, and Sarai to Sarah to Sarai, and those to signify a major something that He was doing. So I wonder if we've just lost any significance that might have on our lives, what that means. But it's interesting that He's going to give us a stone in the book of Revelation, and that's encouraging to me, because that's always what that's meant to me, is that God is, by doing so, is affirming that there's a special and unique connection between you, the individual, and Him that no one else has. All of the struggles that we have on this earth, all the time you spent in the prayer, shouting, angry with God, loving God, whatever it was, that whole walk, all of that has built a relationship that we will have and carry with us for eternity. And that stone with a new name, to me, signifies God acknowledging that I recognize you as a unique and individual character. I respect your autonomy. Enough that I guess enough to let us have it. Doesn't have to. And that's pretty incredible, right? So you might think, some people have this child's vision of what it's going to be like to be in the kingdom, and cherubs and clouds and such. People who make statements like that have a child's understanding of Scripture. If you're talking about milk and honey and the ways that the patriarchs tried to describe the undescribable, they only had references of value. They could only pull up what they knew. They knew that gold was valued. They knew that milk and honey was something that was sought after. That was the best thing that you could hope to have. It was desired, right? So to have those things that we desire, that's our paradigm, that's what we understand. Like, so when God says, I have things in store for you that you haven't even imagined, you imagine that, right? So this is simplistic understanding. These are just ancient peoples trying to describe something that can't be described. We are down to our last piece, Mama. This right here is the one we've been looking for. Oh, that's not that mean. I wouldn't say that's a mean one. It just needs some persuasion. German steel can be very persuasive. Oh, that felt bad. I felt like I hit a piece of steel. Goodness, it just rocked my bones. Man, that is a classic knot. These knots, I tell you, gentlemen, especially these fir knots, they can be hard as glass, literally. That right there, that is hard. You're not chopping through that. You take a lesser quality piece of steel, that'll chip it. It's hard to believe, but it will. So this is a cord. I haven't sharpened this or touched this edge. This is about a cord I've ran through here. It's holding up. Yeah, no damage. I could see right there where I struck that knot. I could see a little piece of that pitch there. No damage. It's a good piece of steel. Will it do that in cold weather? That's where you really find out. Steel can get brittle in cold weather. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to sign off, clean up this mess. If you guys don't mind low effort live streams here, we might be able to work them in, but might have to just bring you where I'm at. Should be able to do it. I've got a DSLR. We shoot an R5, so it looks pretty nice. It doesn't look as nice on the phone, but the phone is convenient because we can take it with us. So if we're going to be out working on the other shop, we could do it out there. So let me know if you don't mind low effort streams. Then I'll do them. We'll do them. We'll see what we can do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all of the generous super chats from you folks. Welcome to the new members. Thank you for the inspiring words and the quotes, and just for knowing that I'm not out here struggling. I'm not the only one. You're not struggling out here by myself. It's encouraging to me. This has been very encouraging, and I enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you to the moderators as well. They're the unsung heroes, keeping the chat going, and all your generosity for your time as well. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys over on the next one.